army shall stand up whole, as bold as the battle's great Charlie were. Our army's restless and fast as ever to love the futures untoward, futures unknown.
Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались з кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Ті, хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів. Робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 877 of the news. And it's good to see you all once again. And we have a slew of somewhat disturbing news today, and it's good to see you all once again.
And of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. And we have some very large and somewhat concerning news today, not only coming from inside of occupied Ukraine, but also from the area just outside of occupied Ukraine within the area of the Southern Russian Federation. According to the news and the preliminary reports that we've been able to get at the moment, it appears that a major radiation leak may be occurring right now at the Rostov nuclear power plant near to the city of Volgodonsk. We are going to be covering that in a little bit more detail here later on tonight, and we're going to be going into some caveats that we have about that news, but nevertheless, on-the-ground sources from the nearby area are starting to report that there are signs of possible radiation contamination within the surrounding area, and also clear signs to the civilian population and the local civil administration may be taking actions to combat radiation sickness and other kinds of buildups of radioactive contaminants. We have also been able to get news from the area of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant that 5,000 Russian employees, nuclear reactor employees, have been evacuated from the Enhedar nuclear power plant closed city, and we do not really have a good reason as to why. And the concerning news about nuclear weaponry and nuclear arms, and also nuclear energy as a whole, doesn't really end there, as we were also able to get a statement today from the United States Department of State that they believe that the Iranians will have a usable nuclear weapon, meaning a weapon of mass destruction, most likely within the next several weeks. While the Iranians are working on their nuclear project just across the area of the Middle East, on the shores of the Eastern Mediterranean, we were also able to hear that the Israelis are currently continuing to intercept Hezbollah attacks that are still being launched across the border, and have also conducted more airstrikes against Hezbollah's commanders and leaders within the area south of the Litani River. Not only that, we were also able to get more major information from inside of the Russian Federation, as we were able to hear that the city of Moscow is flooding, and not only that, significant damage has been caused to another war industry plant within the city. At the exact same time, on the Ukraine war front lines, we were also able to get to see that the Ukrainians are continuing to inflict incredibly high casualties on the Russian forces, attempting to push them back in the area of Vovchansk and withering the Russians in the areas of Bakhmut and Avdiivka. And while the Russians have been able to make minimal advances in Avdiivka, the losses, of course, have been incredibly high. We have loads of news to cover over the past 24 hours, some concerning and some incredibly good for Ukraine. But of course, we are going to be going into the most breaking news that we have tonight, which is within the area of the city of Volgodonsk. Volgodonsk has actually been on our news cycle not too long ago, as it was a part of a Ukrainian drone campaign spanning the entire length of the Don River, all the way from Kalach-na-Donu and all the way down to the city of Azov, right outside of Rostov-on-Don itself. The city of Volgodonsk was also attacked by Ukrainian drones not too long ago near to the area of Semilyansk, a town that is just north of the dam that is on this area of the Don River, just north of Volgodonsk. And specifically, this small fuel terminal right here, which is used as a servicing point, or at least in a larger form, a servicing point for Russian vessels to be able to access fuel and continue to transit up and down the Don River. However, right outside of Semilyansk and Volgodonsk, within this area of the Don River Reservoir, is this power plant right here. This is the Rostov nuclear power plant. Interestingly enough, many of y'all may be familiar with the way that this nuclear power plant looks, and I'm going to show y'all a picture of it. A lot of y'all will think y'all are right at home at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and that is because this power plant and the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant use the exact same model of reactors. They are, I believe, light water reactors, if I'm correct, or they are some sort of a, I forgot what the actual name of it is. It's some sort of a graphite reactor or something along those lines, but nevertheless, they're not
Graphite reactor.
It's something like a low pressure water reactor or something along those lines, but nevertheless, these nuclear reactors here at the Rostov nuclear power plant are the exact same ones that are operated at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. This power plant is actually a little bit smaller, however, only having 4 operational reactors instead of the 6 that are found at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. However, that does not mean that this power plant is safer, at least in the hands of the Russians, or that it is less accident prone because it has less reactors. According to information that we have gotten from the surrounding areas, and I once again want to make sure that we have not been able to corroborate this with an official government source from inside the Russian Federation, or an official government source either from Ukraine or a Western government, so we cannot confirm this as 100% true at the moment, but we have been getting alarm bells set off for days as the power plant went offline several days ago, and the Russians did admit that the power plant apparently pretty much blacked out, and the entire city of Volgodonsk and Semilyansk were plunged into darkness for a while until the power plant came back online and was operational. And we are now starting to hear that there is a possible radiation leak coming from the Rostov nuclear power plant. I once again want to make this incredibly clear that we have not been able to confirm this with an official government source or video and picture evidence confirming that this power plant has had some sort of a major incident that is creating a large amount of radiation contamination within the surrounding area. But I will be making sure to read y'all the information that we have right here about this, because it does sound as though this is possibly starting to move, considering how much this is being repeated day after day now, really for the past 2.5 days, that this may actually be a true story. And if it is, we want to make sure to at least let y'all know that there is the rumblings of a possible major nuclear incident that is occurring around the area of the city of Volgodonsk. But according to what we have, there is a possible radiation leak at the Rostov nuclear power plant. There are currently rumors and panic in the Rostov, Russia region related to a potential and officially unconfirmed radiation leak from the nuclear power plant. Locals claim that all of the pharmacies in Volgodonsk and Semilyansk have run out of potassium iodide tablets, which are used to treat for radiation exposure. It appears the rumors started from a post on the 18th of July, yesterday, on X, by this Twitter account. In the Rostov People's Republic, the emergency release of radioactive water at the Rostov nuclear power plant has not yet been localized. In addition, there is a constant leak of radiation. According to Ross Adam, the radioactive background in Rostov is normal. In fact, it is already 75 times higher than normal health to the luminous. I don't know what the last part means about the luminous, but apparently people are starting to glow. But beyond that, the Russian government continues to deny that there was an accident, stating the power outage resulted from rumors of a nuclear accident. And this
Now,
is
since when does rumors cause a power outage? That sounds like some hallmark stereotypical like Russian propaganda to try to shut people up. Because obviously that makes no sense whatsoever at all.
no, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like how in the like by saying there is no accident. And the power outage is what is making people believe that there was an accident. This isn't really making all too much sense at the moment. This is why we're giving this story a lot of airtime tonight, because while we have not been able to corroborate it off of this channel's hallmark fact-checking features, which is to make sure that we have some sort of a government source that is either written or directly spoken about this and has been able to confirm it, or video and picture evidence, it does sound as though the story is starting to get a lot more credibility than it's had in the past. And that is why we are starting to believe that this is an actual ongoing event at the moment, is that there may be a decent amount of radiation leakage. Now, one thing that's interesting about that is that the Rostov nuclear power plant, I'm assuming, because we don't really know how, at least at the moment, at least I do, how the cooling system of this power plant works. We can see some of the cooling towers out here for the coolant, which is water, but we can also see this large pond that has been created right here as well as a part of the Don River Reservoir, and I believe this is what is supposed to be its water reservoir and also its cooling pool. Possibly. I'm not entirely sure on that. We'll be trying to find out more information about how this specific reactor works and how this nuclear power plant was constructed. But nevertheless, it does sound as though that something severe may have been going on. And it sounds as though, according to the rumors that are coming out, that there may be some sort of a leak of radioactive water, possibly containing tritium, into the local water supply, even outside of the cooling pond that we see right here. And that could, of course, become a very major ordeal. But nevertheless, we are trying to figure out a lot more information about this as time is going by, as to whether this is true, whether it is a major event, whether it's a minor event. If it's a minor event, we'll probably never be able to officially confirm this, as the Russian government is going to keep a very tight lid on what has happened at the Rostov nuclear power plant, and considering that all radiation contamination at that point would be localized within the area of the Don River around the Rostov nuclear power plant, and most likely any radioactive traces would most likely be deposited into the Azov Sea, currently completely under Russian control, we probably would not be able to get a lot of confirmation if it is a minor or moderate level accident. However, if it ends up becoming a severe accident where radioactive contaminants are deposited over a wide area, there probably will be some trace amounts of radiation that are picked up within areas of Eastern Europe under NATO control, which would then report that there is clear signs of a major nuclear incident happening within the Russian Federation. We are very doubtful that that will happen. It's most likely a moderate or minor nuclear event, but nevertheless, a lot of people have been talking about this, considering that we're hearing this story a lot, especially from Russian military bloggers and others, but we're not really getting enough confirmation at the moment to be able to really say certainly, are the Russians trying to cover up something, or is there anything happening here at all? And a lot of people have been throwing in their 2 cents on this, and it seems as though a lot of people are on the same page about what may be happening at the Rostov nuclear power plant, and many people are already pointing to it being a Russian concealment of a major accident. And Matthew, what are people thinking about this, and what are you thinking about it? Are you thinking that it's the concealment of a major accident, or do you think that we need more information, or do you believe that this is just entirely an untrue story?
All right, so after we've learned about the rumors running around that the Russian Rostov nuclear plant is leaking radiation, we asked the audience, what are your thoughts? 78% said Russia is likely concealing an accident, while 8% said, I kind of think something's off, I'm not really sure, and 5% said it's probably just rumors, and that's it. And on this one, since we do know for a fact that on July 16th, there was a safety incident at the Rostov plant where a safety mechanism was tripped and it resulted in a shutdown of one of the power units there, it's not too far-fetched to say that there might be some sort of radiation leak from that reactor itself. So for the Russians to say there's absolutely nothing to worry about whatsoever and not address the issue that just happened a couple of days ago seems to indicate to me that they are concealing something. But of course, we have to emphasize, it's just rumor at the moment, it's rumors, so it's not confirmed, and these are just simply sources on the ground that we're hearing saying that something is off. But to me, I'm with the 78%, it looks a little bit fishy. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that would have to say it seems a little fishy. It does seem like something suspicious may be going on. There may be the concealment of some sort of a nuclear incident to occur here. We don't really know what it is, though, and there is a wide variety of the kind of nuclear incidents that can occur. Every single nuclear incident isn't going to be at the level of a Fukushima Daiichi level meltdown. It could be that there was a 3 Mile Island-like incident here. It could be that there was just simply a radioactive contaminant leak where a large amount of tritium ended up entering the Don River. We don't really know, and so it's really hard to say what kind of an incident this is, but I do have a pretty decent assumption that the Russians would want to hide something like this. We already know that the Russians are wildly bad at hiding practically everything. Like, for example, once again, I want to remind y'all about this one, because this is one that the Russians still hide to this day. Many of y'all will remember that all the way out near Naberezhny Chelny is a small little town, and let me see if I can go find this one for y'all really quick. Up here, called Votkinsk. And this is a little itty-bitty town. And this town actually manufactures a large amount of the intercontinental ballistic missiles that the Russians use in their nuclear arsenal. And they're also sent back to this little factory right here in the center of town to maintain them every once in a while if they ever need any kind of incredibly intensive maintenance. And this facility blew up. Like it was actually confirmed on video and picture evidence. This entire factory got obliterated. But because this city is a closed city, and not a lot of information is allowed in or out, and hardly anyone is allowed in or out of Votkinsk, there wasn't hardly any confirmation at all from the Russian government's end of the explosion that happened at Votkinsk, and even to this day, the Russian government has made absolutely no comment about the security of Votkinsk's pretty much nuclear rocket power plant, well, not power plant, but plant, and we haven't heard that it's either been destroyed or not. They have made absolutely no comment on it, and that is something to me that says a lot. It's just one example of many, but the fact that they wouldn't even mention that that area had been hit by some kind of an attack or partisan incident, or maybe even a workplace incident that ended up causing an incredibly large explosion, we have good reason to believe that the Russians, if there was a nuclear incident happening down in the area of the Don River, they most likely would be covering that up, and most likely would not want the public to know in Russia that something bad has happened, and especially for the rest of the world, as it would be an embarrassment on top of many. On top of a failing war in Ukraine, they're now going to be showing that they can't maintain nuclear reactors properly, while there is a massive argument always going on in the background about why in the world are the Russians controlling the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant within occupied Ukraine. So I would have to say,
you can't help but look at this whole situation, and it really makes you think of what happened with Chernobyl way back in the day. Remember, the Russians let the people of Pripyat stay in that town and not evacuate them, while Chernobyl had a complete total disaster, a meltdown, and an explosion where the radiation and nuclear material was literally thrown everywhere. The Russians let the people stay there and get radiated. I'm not saying that's for a fact what's happening here, but it seems to be following somewhat of a similar pattern if we come to find out that there was indeed a radiation leak at that plant. So very odd, the connection between those two things, and also how similar it really is.
And another interesting thing about that, Matthew, is that the Soviet Union would have never admitted to anyone in the world about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster if it wasn't for the massive radiation cloud traveling out of the Soviet Union and into the Scandinavian countries, where it set off Geiger counters across the entirety of the northern area of Europe, and then also over the United Kingdom about a day or two later. They would have never admitted to anyone outside the Soviet Union that a major incident had happened if the West had not picked up on a major incident occurring because of the massive amount of radiation flowing out of the Soviet Union and through the jet streams. So going off of that, I would believe that they most likely would cover up a nuclear incident if it is happening. And even right now as we're talking, we have folks that are watching this channel right now on Twitter saying that there's people that are on the ground saying that the amount of radiation is incredibly high. Of course, those are unconfirmed reports. We would have to get video or picture evidence of someone possibly holding a camera up to a Geiger counter and showing that just the trace amounts of radiation in the air are wildly high compared to normal. But at the moment, it does sound as though something big may have happened, and there is a small amount of information leaks occurring here and there where we're able to get an idea that the Russians may be covering up a small or moderate nuclear incident at this power plant. But moving on from that news, because we also have incredibly major news coming from really all corners of the world today, not just in the area of the Don River, but also within areas deeper inside of Russia, like the city of Moscow. We were able to see that the Russians are going through a little bit of a disaster today, as the city of Moscow is beginning to flood. This is something that happens here and there, but of course, it's not that great of a look considering that they're in the middle of a war, and now the city of Moscow is flooding again. According to the information that we have, 30% of the monthly norm of precipitation fell in the capital in a single day. And apparently the entire city is on orange alert, but I'll just show y'all some of the clips some Muscovites have put out showing the amount of just rainwater pretty much everywhere in the city, because it looks like the city is pretty much drowning at this point. If these video clips load. This person's boat.
Man, they've turned this ladder or whatever this is. This turned into a aqua vehicle now.
Dude, they're gonna be like that stupid Russian commander on top of that giant amphibious vehicle, just looking at all the poors trying to climb out of the city down there in Orsk. Remember that, Matthew? He was just like, look at the peasants.
Yeah.
Dude, he's gonna be like that guy in a minute. Why the hell would you even drive through that? That's stupid. But that's Russia. But moving on from that and into the next clip, we also got to see war water just everywhere. There's water world out here.
It must talk to be a Russian. They have fire problems, and then they have flooding with water problems as well. It's just all the way around. They're just getting the Mother Nature's brunt, you could say.
Mother Nature. Man, they're getting that Mother Nature.
I'm trying to talk over all that booming music and stuff, trying to keep my thoughts together while just trying to play in the background.
What's that loud drumming bass? But we can see the clip right here also showing the flood waters. I mean, it's bad. It's pretty rough in a lot of places of Moscow at the moment. But overall, it's just not that great of a day in Moscow. But it got even worse as an oil facility caught on fire and also burned to the ground in Moscow on the same day. Here's the clip. This is apparently from an area of the city that wasn't flooded on higher ground, but even on the high ground, it was not a good day in Moscow. Summer masla. Like, okay, all right. But anyways, Moscow ain't having a great day today. It looks as though the city is either filled with water or is on fire. So you either get water damage or fire damage. Pick your poison. But moving on out of the area of Moscow, I have to move us down into the area of the Middle East, because many of y'all will know that while we cover Ukraine war news primarily on this channel, we are a pro-Western world news channel, and we cover major breaking events wherever they're occurring around the world. And one of the most major and pretty significant events that we've been able to confirm, at least by U.S. official sources, is that apparently the Islamic Republic of Iran is only weeks away from creating a usable nuclear weapon. U.S. officials say Iran is merely weeks away from producing nuclear material to construct a nuclear weapon, meaning that their nuclear development program is starting to move at a little bit of a faster pace. It's accelerating. Even with the death of the President Raisi, it seems as though times are just not really slowing down at all in the Iranian nuclear weapons development program. Most of that program is actually run out of the major Iranian city of Isfahan in the center of the country. But from what we understand, we are getting a clear idea from the United States government, and they've been saying this, and it seems like they're still fairly on board with the timetable that they've been putting out, that it was months a while ago until they had a usable nuclear weapon, and now it's only weeks. It seems as though, according to U.S. governmental information, the Iranians are getting closer and closer with each passing week of having a usable nuclear weapon. This is something that is incredibly concerning, as this is a violation of the nuclear non-proliferation treaties that have been signed by all major nuclear powers of the world, and currently the only country that is in violation of that non-proliferation treaty is North Korea, being the only member that was not listed. Also, South Africa disarmed themselves completely, so they're kind of out of the picture as well. But beyond that, this is something that is very concerning. Not only is it in violation of the nuclear non-proliferation treaties, but this is also a wildly unstable and dangerous government that currently exists within the Islamic Republic of Iran. This government is one that has oppressed its people. It has conducted crimes against humanity while governing the area of Iran. And from what we understand, it has very low public support, meaning that this government is on very fragile footing. For such an unstable government in such an unstable position, to possess and wield the ability to use nuclear weapons, at least within the local region, is incredibly concerning, especially considering that a large amount of the Middle East is actually American aligned, including the nations of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan specifically, Israel, as well as sort of kind of Iraq, although they're not really that greatly aligned. They're kind of like in a little bit of a neutral, slightly friendly footing. And then there's the Syrian Democratic Forces inside of Syria, although they're kind of diminishing in importance. But nevertheless, the Iranians having a nuclear weapon is something that is wildly concerning. I don't even really have to say, do people find that concerning or not? That is wildly concerning, really is a point of fact, especially considering that it is a country that is openly hostile against Western interests within the Middle East and openly hostile against Western interests around the world. This is something that I would have to say looks to be a very concerning situation, especially if U.S. intelligence sources are correct and they're this close from trying to get themselves a usable nuclear weapon. A lot of people have been talking about this, and a load of people have been saying, what will happen if they get a nuclear weapon within the next few weeks? And a lot of people are believing that the Iranians are going to start escalating at a rapid pace, considering that they will now have the shield of a nuclear weapon to pretty much hide under. Some others are saying that they'll stay quiet for a while, and then they'll eventually unveil that they have a usable nuclear weapon. Some people are believing that the Iranians are actually just going to test a nuke on someone immediately. Like, they're not going to give it a test run in Iran. They're just going to throw it at someone and pray it works. And others are a little bit unsure and undecided about this. But a lot of people have been throwing in their opinions and trying to get in their 2 cents on what they think about this and what this may end up being. And Matthew, what are people thinking about it? Do they think that the Iranians are going to start rapidly escalating and destabilize the region? Or do they think they're going to play it pretty low key, although they will have a usable nuclear weapon?
So it looks like about 46% of the people said Iran will start escalating very rapidly, while 32% said Iran will stay quiet for a while, and 12% said Iran will test a nuke on someone. And on this one, I am pretty confidently with the 45%. Can you imagine if Iran has the shield of a nuclear weapon, what they're going to start doing, just out of the blue, start randomly escalating pretty much everything they can all at once? That's the way I see it, because Iran's already acting up significantly, even without a nuclear weapon. So if they feel like they're invincible, they're about to start acting really bad. So to me, it's imperative that we do not allow them to make this nuclear breakthrough. It's very imperative to stop them. I'm not sure really what we can do at this point to actually stop it, but for it to only be a week away, that is extremely concerning to me. And what Iran may do, we can only speculate and guess. But my guess is they're going to go hog wild whenever they finally get that nuke. So I'm with the 46%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I believe that they are most likely going to start escalating within the region. I believe that the nuclear weapon that they will be able to create will not mean that the Iranians start to go to war with everyone around them directly, but they are going to be a lot more open and brazen about supporting their affiliated groups within the area, like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis, as well as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is pretty much the backbone of all of these groups that are currently operating in the Middle East. They will be more than happy to use that nuclear weapon as a sword to pretty much paralyze the entire region against any action against Iranian-backed groups, and to make sure that they can continue to supply them and grow them into being stronger and even more dangerous organizations that will pose a greater risk to Western security interests inside of this region. It is something that, in my opinion, is incredibly serious, and I believe that swift action should be made to counter this Iranian threat if possible. I would say, as the President of the United States, if I was the President, that I would authorize, probably within the next few days, a limited air campaign against the Islamic Republic of Iran to target and destroy nuclear testing and weapons development facilities within Iran, and to pretty much stop their nuclear weapons development in its tracks. Possibly, if we understood that it was starting to become a little bit too out of control, I would also consider the possibility of allowing limited strikes, pretty much low collateral strikes, or no collateral strikes against known Iranian nuclear scientists and nuclear researchers, because while they may be, and some people are going to be going, hey, women isn't that a civilian? While they may be a civilian, they are actively helping to produce a nuclear weapon for the Iranian government. So at that point, it kind of enters a little bit of a gray area where we might have to wipe out all of the progress that they made. We're also going to have to possibly wipe out some of the people who are at the very top of that nuclear weapons development program, if we know who they are, so that way when we wipe out all of their progress, they can't just start right back over again. Some people are going to say, well, that sounds really escalatory, and that does seem quite escalatory, but there are some very bad options that we're going off of right now if we're to believe this information that we've been given is true. One, if we were to actually get involved in a ground war with Iran, that could take so long, considering their difficult terrain, that they could actually create a usable nuclear weapon, and then we could be in a very bad fix, as U.S. forces could be under the gun of having a small nuclear weapon lobbed at them while they're in Iran. And that is not a good situation, and we really do not want to commit that much into this, where we have to put American soldiers on the ground and end up inflicting a high amount of casualties on ourselves to deal with the situation. An air campaign would be a lot more surgical, a lot more precise, and really achieve what we need, while also not putting the Iranians in such a destabilizing situation that it could start to spiral out of control. Another thing that we do not want is for the Iranians to actually create this nuclear weapon, as that will start to pose incredibly major security issues, not only within the area of the Middle East, but really around the world, as another country that is not supposed to have a nuclear weapon has a nuclear weapon and is pretty much going to be using it against anyone and everyone they can. So going off of that, I would generally have to say that I am not a big fan at all of the Iranians getting any kind of a nuclear weapon, and I would have to believe that a very rapid action should be taken, a very limited but rapid action should be taken to decapitate the Iranian nuclear weapons development program and any affiliated organizations along with it. Matthew, I gotta ask, if you were in a position to do something, what would you do?
I was actually about to put up a poll on that, but to go ahead and answer what I would do, honestly, I would see this as a existential threat to our allies, and I would personally say that we do need to take out whatever sites they are producing these nuclear weapons at. We'd probably need to go in and take those out either by a precision strike, or if we need to go in on ground, I would say do that as well. And like the Enforcer said as well, that sounds pretty escalatory, or it sounds pretty extreme. But at the same time, if it goes the way I predict it to go, Iran is going to get this nuclear weapon, and they're going to feel protected, they're going to feel shielded, and they're going to start acting really bad. They're going to start trying to attack Israel, and then we're in a situation where we have two nuclear powers going at it in a power struggle between Iran and Israel, and that could end up with nukes being exchanged altogether. So Iran getting nukes is a worst case scenario. That's almost worse than even North Korea having nukes, because North Korea's had them for some time and they haven't really acted too crazy with them, even though they run their mouth quite a bit. I think Iran would probably be one of the first countries to actually launch one, because they're led by a bunch of basically zealots and also bigots. So they're probably the most likely to do it. So that's what I would do personally.
I would have to say that sounds like a fairly reasonable approach. And it, of course, I have to once again highlight to many people, because a lot of people will say, especially with my approach, and I have to kind of go over this again because a lot of people always say stuff like this, that there is always a risk that that kind of an action could be escalatory and provocative, conducting limited airstrikes against the Islamic Republic of Iran. The truth is that at this point, considering the road that we're moving down, there really is no other route that would create a positive scenario. And even then, I do have to admit that limited airstrikes against Iran would be not the best case scenario that could occur, but it still would be a pretty difficult one, a questionable one, but it's really the only option we have at this point, and we kind of have to play the cards we're dealt as far as it goes. But still,
here's the question I want to know, though. This is like a pretty straightforward, common sense type of question that really nobody really asks. When the U.S. Secretary of State comes out and says that there's only a week to go until Iran develops nukes, like, what exactly are the Iranians waiting on? Like, what's going to take a week that they need to do to actually have the nuke ready to go? Like, what do you even know, Enforcer?
I don't really know for sure. I believe that they're trying to get the fissile material needed to create the bomb, the enriched nuclear I guess, materials. Maybe that's what they're going for. But I don't really know.
They're
for
waiting on a
certain.
shipment from Temu or Alibaba or something.
Yeah, they're probably waiting for some kind of a shipment from Temu or Alibaba or something. Who knows, man? Maybe it's Amazon Prime. I have no clue. Like, I really don't have a clue, but it's still really concerning to hear. And I do believe that some swift action should be made. But we're, of course, going to run that question by all of y'all and see what y'all are thinking as well. Because it would be interesting to see what y'all think about this, because, of course, swift action would be great, but at the same time, there are some caveats to that. So what do y'all think about it? Do y'all think that maybe swift armed action should be taken in a limited role against Iran? Do you think that that swift armed action in a full capacity should be made? Or do you think that no action should be made at all? Or maybe even something totally different? I would be interested in knowing. But with that, we are now going to be moving on from that little bit of news in Iran, and we're now going to be moving on over into the area of Israel, as we were able to get some very interesting news from the area today, off of the cusp of the massive explosion that happened in Tel Aviv. We were able to confirm that the drone was launched by the Houthis, and apparently traveled over an area of eastern Egypt as it approached from the eastern Mediterranean, over the ocean, and into the city of Tel Aviv, showing that this drone took an incredibly long-distance route and ended up slamming dead on into that high-rise building. Not only that, it seems as though that the Hezbollah forces inside of southern Lebanon are still continuing their strike attempts into the area of northern Israel, as we were able to see an Iron Dome interception occurring today that I gotta say was pretty wild. Here's the clip.
Wow.
That was close.
That last little bit of travel right to the explosion, that's some fast movement right there.
And we can actually see the second explosion as the debris fell to the ground. But look at that Iron Dome, dude. It went straight up, and then it pretty much went into a nosedive right there. That was pretty impressive.
That was.
I wish we knew what fell to the ground and exploded. It may have been some sort of a Qassam rocket. We don't really know. It may have been a Shahed. We're just not entirely sure. We have no good information on that at the moment. But at the same time, Israel decided to strike back, at least against Hezbollah forces, considering that they're the closest nearby that they can strike at and knock out. And it appears that another Hezbollah leader was wiped out inside of an Israeli Air Force airstrike. Apparently, this guy was a commander of an entire military district within southern Lebanon, and it looks as though the Israelis creamed the guy on 4K HD nonetheless. Boom! And they got him right there. There he goes.
Damn, man, those Israelis don't know how to use any other bomb except for the biggest one. I'm telling you what, they dropped the biggest, like, 2,000-pounder on everything.
Man, they drop the biggest. I'm telling you what, man, it's crazy. But with that, that is the end of the clip. Really interesting to see, and once again showing us that the Israelis are still working towards possible hostile action in the area of southern Lebanon, but it is taking a lot longer for that to culminate than we're currently expecting at the moment. So we're going to be waiting to see what the Israelis do, but moving back across the Middle East and into the area of Iran, a lot of people have been talking about the United States and possibly conducting some sort of a preemptive action against Iran, considering that they are working towards creating a usable nuclear weapon, according to U.S. intelligence. A lot of people are saying that missile strikes or airstrikes, in a larger sense, would probably be the most effective action to take against the Islamic Republic of Iran, considering this concerning information. Others are saying that this should be left to the Israelis and just let the Israelis figure out what to do in the region, although, to be honest, we kind of tie their hands behind their back a lot on what they can do in response to others in the area. Others are saying that we should conduct a full ground invasion of Iran, possibly tying the United States up in the Middle East again, costing a large amount of funds and maybe a large amount of American lives as well, but nevertheless they believe that the sacrifice is necessary to avoid an Iran that will be nuclear armed. And some others are unsure and undecided, but it seems like many people have many different opinions on what should be happening and what should be going down here. We don't know what the right answer would be. And I have to make that very clear. I have my own opinion that limited airstrikes would be the best bet. But there is no right answer to this. This is a very difficult situation that we're dealing with in the Middle East, and we are kind of having to try and feel our way through the dark here on air, along with all of y'all, about maybe what would be the best approach against the Islamic Republic of Iran, considering this information. But Matthew, what are people saying about what a possible U.S. response should be to Iran, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So on this one, it looks like 35% of the audience said, let's do missile strikes instead of an invasion, while 27% said, yes, we should invade Iran altogether, and another 27% said, no, we should leave this to Israel. And to be perfectly honest with you, I am not too wild about going and invading Iran, because we just got out of Afghanistan in the Middle East, and we do not want to go back and start putting troops on the ground for another 10-year-long war. So I don't really see that being a viable option. Of course, if missile strikes do not work, you might be forced to do that option, but I certainly wouldn't take that as the first one. So I'm with the 35%. I say do precision missile strikes first, but the only catch with that is who might step in, for example, Russia or another foreign country that might want to support their ally in Iran. Because remember, Iran does supply Russia with weapons to fight the war in Ukraine in a limited fashion, and actually it sort of fluctuates, something from limited to somewhat more mass weapons to Russia. So Russia might want to step in as well. We just simply don't know. But I would say it's probably worth the risk, and I would probably do missile strikes on those sites to prevent them from developing this nuke. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I'm still under the idea that limited strikes into Iran would be the most likely option, the most positive outcome at this moment. And a lot of people are going to say, well, it doesn't sound like starting an official war pretty much with Iran by striking them officially as the United States would be a good outcome. And I would have to say that in a perfect world, that isn't really a good outcome. But what other options do we have? Diplomacy with the Iranians is practically impossible. They are a strictly anti-American, anti-Western country. They are not going to be denuclearizing themselves or making it more difficult for themselves to produce a nuclear weapon, considering that that is within Western interests, and they are inherently against Western interests. For that reason, diplomacy is not an option at this moment. So we cannot try and settle this through talk. We have to figure out, especially considering how much longer we believe they have until they have a usable nuclear weapon, talks couldn't even begin and end in that time for us to know whether there would be a good or bad outcome. And by the time those talks would have ended, they have a usable nuclear weapon. So we are presented with an option. We have to take some action to make sure that Iran does not have a usable nuclear weapon. What will that be? We can conduct a ground invasion, like many have said, but the drawback to a ground invasion in Iran is, one, the terrain is wildly difficult to deal with in Iran. Unlike Iraq, which is largely flat open desert, which is actually very easy to move through until you get into the Tigris and Euphrates River area, Iran is completely different. Iran has a massive mountain range along its entire southern coastline, and not only that, the mountains never end. They just go all the way through Iran. So it would be incredibly slow fighting even for the United States, or we would have to conduct something along the lines of Afghanistan, where we just drop off isolated forces here and there in different parts of the country, and then try and link them all up later, and then envelop the entire country and take control of it that way. It would be a fairly tough nut to crack inside of Iran. And also we have to consider what kind of, and of course I'm not getting into the politics here, but I want to bring this up because this is always an important part about continuation, or as it would be called, sustainment, is what kind of political willpower would there be to keep a large force within Iran for a while in that kind of scenario? Because we wouldn't just be going in at that point with a full ground invasion to make sure that Iran isn't a nuclear power. We would most likely have additional war goals tacked on at that point. The replacement of the Islamic Republic's government, probably a new interim government coming into place, trying to install some form, while I don't think this is a good idea, we most likely would try and install some form of a democracy within Iran. What in the world kind of willpower would there be for that kind of an action? We don't know. And that's something that I will have to say, going back to Iraq, ended up killing the war in Iraq pretty much, well, the invasion of Iraq as soon as it started in 2003. Because by 2005, there was clearly not enough U.S. military forces within Iraq to hold the area down and to be able to secure the weapons caches that ended up pretty much funding, well, really not funding, but supporting the Fedayeen inside of Iraq, which had pretty much become a terrorist force at that point, and also other groups within the area, which still ended up posing massive issues to this day, like ISIS. we have to consider that there probably would not be a lot of public support or backing, for that matter, to continue an occupation of Iran while we try to install an interim government. Meaning that while in the short term, that would be the most interesting action we could take, and possibly one of the most positive actions in a short-term picture. In the long-term picture, I believe that would cost the United States a considerable amount of money. It would cost a considerable amount of American lives, which we really just don't want to waste anywhere, especially when looking at a picture like this. We probably would never be able to successfully install a permanent government. The interim government would probably start to fall apart towards the end, a lot like the Afghan interim government did by 2021. It just doesn't seem to me like a ground invasion would be a good idea. And also, Havel and Tuft threw in a very good point. Iran has a population of 86.5 million people. Whatever U.S. force or coalition force we send into Iran would have to deal with holding down a country of 87 million people. And even if just a small amount of those people are active against that force, that is going to be incredibly difficult to deal with. And I just don't think a ground invasion of Iran would be a good idea. So our next approach, if we're wanting to take an armed and swift response to the Iranians, would be a limited airstrike. The United States could send in, I'm sure we already have, CIA assets within Iran that are gathering sensitive information on the Iranians, their sites and facilities that are involved in their nuclear weapons development. And so we can use that information, hopefully accurate, to strike these facilities and destroy them with airstrikes. I would also say, and now I'm not a big fan of this on the outright, but if we saw that there was possibility that the Iranians may have facilities that we might not know a lot about and we might not be able to strike, we may want to consider the option of striking nuclear scientists within the country with pretty much the Ginsu bombs to try and take them out, so that way they can't pretty much restart the program from the ground up or pretty much pick up where they left off, because some facilities weren't left destroyed. That may be something we want to consider as well, because the idea of the Iranians having a nuclear weapon is wildly concerning. It's against global treaties, for that matter, and not only that, it is one of the few countries that we would actually want to have a nuclear weapon. It is certainly a country that does not need to have a nuclear weapon, and we need to ensure that that remains a reality. Uncle Sam said, the CIA lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. That is true, but I will say that I can't really fault them that much, because the Iraqis had been working in the past to try and produce weapons of mass destruction. The Israelis actually ended up dealing with that on their own and destroying the uranium enrichment facilities a while before the invasion in 2003 happened. But still, the information is founded on some semblance of reality or some semblance of truth, although that was, of course, untrue after the invasion occurred and we were able to get all the information. It was just an untrue assessment. However, with the Iranians, we know that they have to be on some sort of a route of progress on creating a nuclear weapon. They have been, for a while now, working towards that, a lot like North Korea has. The United States has made multiple different agreements, either condemning Iran and trying to slow down their nuclear weapons development, or trying to curb their nuclear development towards a more peaceful path instead of a path of war, or a path of warfare with a nuclear weapon. That has been the stance for really the past 10 years. So we know that the Iranians are working on some sort of nuclear project, whether it be peaceful or weaponized, and it now appears, according to U.S. intelligence, they are working towards weaponized nuclear technology. That is a very concerning thing.
Also, I see a live chat here from Alexander Lee. He said, why weren't we jumping to help Ukraine when Russia also had nukes as well? He said, everyone was saying that Ukraine isn't a NATO member, so why jump for Israel? And on that one, I would say it's very simple. With Iran not having nuclear weapons right now, it's much easier to stop them from actually getting them. But because once they have them, the entire game is changed. You can't just go in there and start invading the country, as they might decide to lob that nuke at you that they suddenly have in Iran. So it's much easier to stop them before it starts. And Russia already had the nukes before the Ukraine invasion started. Russia already had them from the get-go. And not only did they have them, they had a ton of them, and really big ones as well. So to me, I really don't see the comparison there, but interesting point, but it's very different in my opinion.
And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. But nevertheless, we still have loads of news to cover. I don't mean to move on from that too quickly, but we still have a massive amount of news to cover in Ukraine, and that's where most of our news is tonight. But before I move us on into that, I do want to make sure to address a couple of really interesting questions that we've gotten tonight. Matthew, what do we have?
All right, so our first live chat question, or actually super chat question of the night, this one is going to go to Purple Gerbil, who puts in a $20 donation. And a huge shout out to the Purple Gerbil for that support. And I was taking a look here. I don't think there was a question attached to it, but there was a super sticker. It's the YouTube pair jumping around with that cane. It said, "You're amazing." And thank you very much, Purple Gerbil. As always, 20 Canadian. And we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
I gotta say, thank you so much for the support, Purple Gerbil, and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who helped make this thing possible. And I gotta say, thank you for throwing in the YouTube pair. It is, of course, amazing to know that folks like you support this channel and help it to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like y'all, the very small amount of people who support this channel, we wouldn't be able to run this stream every single night, ad-free and sponsor-free, for the tens of thousands of people who watch every single night. And tonight is certainly the example. Right now, so far, 30,000 people have watched this stream live just in its first hour of running. And I know that the live stream concurrent viewers number is way off, because having about 30,000 views in just 1 hour suggests that this stream is up close to about 7,000 live viewers right now, but YouTube's having massive reporting issues, some kind of a error that they have in their system, so everyone's getting underreported for live stream viewership right now. But nevertheless, I've got to say that it is wonderful that folks like you, Purple Gerbil, support this channel and help it to keep on running, because you make it possible for countless tens of thousands to watch this news ad-free and sponsor-free every single night, the way that we intended for this channel to be, and not at all persuaded or swayed by the words of sponsors or possible restrictions on YouTube AdSense. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And of course, a big shout out to Purple Gerbil and everyone who supports the channel and everyone who's here right now as well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
Yes, indeed. And our second super chat is going to go to Repeat Loader, who puts in a $20 donation. And huge shout out to Repeat Loader as well for the repeat support. And he said, "My project is still underway, and PC hardware issue has slowed me down. But if you can answer a chat question, that would be great." And also, Repeat Loader, I hope you're not having a software issue out there, because I saw some blue screens of death coming across some Windows computers out there early this morning, which was very interesting to see. One of the largest IT disasters in history, we're told. A very big one. But thank you very much for that support. And Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I hate to hear that your project is getting a little slowed down. I hate to hear that. But I hope that you can work through it and make sure to iron something out with it. I'm not good at computers. I did, though. I don't mean to brag, folks, but I did actually attach an SSD to my computer, and it did work. So I got like a whole extra 2 terabytes of storage on this thing now. So this computer ain't going nowhere, baby. But beyond that, I gotta say, thank you so much once again for support. We will make sure to grab a live chat question in your honor, Repeat Loader. But still, thank you so much once again for supporting this channel and helping it to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And so with that, thank you once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And we are on to the last question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the rest of the Ukraine war news.
All right, so first off, let's grab that live chat question requested by Repeat Loader.
Dang,
and before I grab that live chat question right there, I actually saw one from Destiny Edgington in the chat. They said, did they find out who was behind the cyber hack? And believe it or not, they're actually saying, the government is saying, that it was due to a issue with a company called CrowdStrike that apparently pushed out either a bad piece of software or some type of glitch, and it accidentally bricked up a lot of systems out there, causing the blue screen of death on the screen. So apparently it wasn't a cyber attack. I thought it was this morning when we saw and heard about that. I was almost certain. I was like, someone just pulled the trigger and it took everything down, because it was almost as bad as people were worried about Y2K being way back in the day. It was even worse or as bad as that. So, you know, that was crazy to see all this planes like literally getting grounded today. Unfortunately, did you hear about like the extent of the damage from that? Like all the planes that were grounded and all that stuff?
Like I saw the flight radar maps. They just emptied out for a while.
It was crazy, man. That was like I hadn't seen anything like that ever since the you know, way back in September of 2001. That was insane to see that many planes like getting grounded because of a computer glitch.
Yeah, that was
but anyways, just wanted to like Just wanted to go off on that side little rabbit hole real quick here. Getting the live chat question requested by Repeat Loader. This one goes to, "You're taking my life." Very dramatic. It said, "Did the Soviet Union lie about Chernobyl for a while too?"
Yes, they did lie about Chernobyl for several days until the radioactive plume made it to the Scandinavian countries and the northern UK, and it was picked up there, and it clearly came from inside of the Soviet Union. And so that's when they admitted that there had been a minor nuclear incident at Chernobyl, but even then they didn't admit the severity of the damage at Chernobyl or the actual consequences that were beginning to occur on the ground because of the massive amounts of radiation that were pouring out of the wide open reactor at that point. But yes, they did lie about it, and that is something that we've seen that the Russians have done a lot. You know, something else I would like to point out to y'all, and this is one that is actually really important, is the Kursk submarine disaster, because many of y'all will know about the city of Kursk and the war and the Battle of Kursk, and many of y'all probably actually know about the Kursk submarine disaster as well, because the Kursk submarine is an Oscar II class nuclear-armed submarine, and it ended up running into a little bit of a problem around, I believe it was 2001, if I'm correct. And let me check. Actually, it was the 12th of August in the year 2000. But this is what the Kursk looked like when it was finally refloated. Can I get a bigger picture of that? Let me see if I can, because I really need to get y'all a better picture of this. They've written books on the Kursk, and I'm trying to see if we can show y'all a better picture. I can't. How in the world can I not show y'all a better picture of the Kursk submarine? Submarine disaster. We don't want the bodies. Like, I don't think we want the bodies. So let me see if I can get y'all a picture here. Here we go. So hopefully this one's a little bit larger. I'm hoping it is. No, it's not. So how about this one? So this is what the Kursk submarine looked like when it was pulled off of the surface of the bottom of the Barents Sea. What had happened, in short, is that the Russians, of course, did not maintain the submarine well at all, and they apparently put a shitty-made torpedo in the torpedo room, and when they put it inside of the torpedo tube, it ended up having some sort of a leak. It ended up exploding in the torpedo tube, which then ended up detonating, I believe, several other torpedoes after a fire broke out in the torpedo room for a while. And then the entire submarine practically blew up after that and then sank rapidly to the bottom of the sea. A couple of sailors inside of the Kursk actually survived the initial explosion and had to flee to the very back of the submarine, which you can see right back there at the back of the picture. They fled into the back of the submarine back there, where there was still some breathable air, and stayed back there for about 2 days until they tried to replace a carbon dioxide scrubber, and they ended up catching the room on fire, which ended up burning out the remaining oxygen, and those remaining sailors suffocated to death in the back of the submarine. The rest of them had all been killed instantly in the initial explosion. But nevertheless, the Russians flat out lied about the submarine and what had happened for a long time. They lied about it blowing up, which was very clear. It was setting off Richter scales around the world when the thing blew up. And they, of course, tried to conduct a rescue attempt. They completely lied for a long time about how bad it was. They then finally admitted that it was a little bit of an incident, but not too major, and they just maybe needed some help from the outside world. Then they wouldn't allow foreign divers inside of the submarine, and then finally Russian divers got in, realized that everyone was dead, and then the Russian government never admitted that any of the sailors died on the Kursk, ever paid the families for the death of those sailors, and continues to kind of deny it up until this day, although they did make a monument about the Kursk submarine a little bit later, and they actually made it out of the mainstay on the sub, and I'll show you all that really quickly, because it's a very haunting looking monument, and it's really morbid when you think about it, because the monument is actually a part of the conning tower, if you want to call it that, or the mainstay of the Kursk. That is the actual mainstay of the Kursk right there. They cut it off of the submarine and put it up here at this monument, which is in Murmansk, which is near to where the Kursk sailed when it ended up blowing up. But that is pretty freaking morbid as a monument, to literally take the piece of the submarine that everyone died in and then just put it up as a monument.
That's something a Russian would do for sure.
Oh, for sure, man. Like, that is 100% very Russian. But still, that is another example of the Russians lying about a major incident, just like Chernobyl. And I would have to say the Russians have a fairly decent precedent of lying, so we would believe that they're probably lying about the Rostov nuclear power plant as well, much like they've lied about many things in the past historically. But with that, I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are actually on to the final question of the segment. But before we do, thank you so much once again, Repeat Loader, for sponsoring the live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here and make this channel possible. And so thank you once again. And we are on to that last question.
And the last one here goes to the Mr. Anderson, who puts in a $20 donation. Huge shout out to Mr. Anderson for that support. He said, "Happy Friday." Oh, and it is Friday. I forgot. He said, "May your coffee be strong and smooth. And please take a question from the chat and Slava Ukraine."
And thank you so much to Mr. Anderson for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, happy Friday to you as well, Mr. Anderson. I can't believe that we made it to another Friday. Absolutely insane. And also, Matthew, you would not believe this, Matthew, because I was thinking another Friday and it's July. And I was thinking for a second before the stream, I was like, you know, if we were still on our law school path, this would be like that couple of months break before we re-enter hell, like in a couple of weeks.
Right.
And what is actually crazy, Matthew, is that someone from law school actually tried to call me about 25 minutes ago while we were on air. No joke. They actually tried to call me. I don't know why they were trying to call me, but I was like, man, I'm not being pulled back in. I was like, fucking suffer. Man, I was like, law school was hell. It really sucked. But beyond that, it's wonderful to know that we made it to another Friday out of law school. I'm absolutely loving life right now because of that. And I got to tell y'all, law school is tough. Like, it's not tough because it's difficult. It's just tough because it sucks. Like, that is probably the best way I can put it. Really, really think about it. If you ever want to go to law school, really, really think about it. And I'm sure a lot of y'all can tell because a lot of y'all were around during our law school days, which lasted quite a good bit, actually. We were exhausted every single day. We had like no sleep, no energy. There were no short war videos, which was a absolute atrocity. And now we can focus on it all. And I got to say, I love it. I love doing this a lot more than going to law school, that's for sure. But still, thank you so much once again for the support. And thank you for saying our coffee may be strong and smooth. I hope it is, because that stoke be pulling me through. It used to be busy, but now it's stoke. But nevertheless, thank you so much once again. We will make sure to take a question from the live chat. And of course, Slava Ukraini. And what do we got, Matthew? Sponsored by none other than the Mr. Anderson.
All right, so let's see here. It looks like this live chat question is going to go to Joe Taylor, Enforcer Matt for LSA President. I'll tell you what, thank you very much, Joe, for the vote of confidence. He says, do you think Israel will let Iran get the nukes?
Well, they might. It's a little bit of a tough one, and it's a bit of a toss-up, actually, because the Israelis kind of have their hands tied greatly by what the United States wants them to do. Because, of course, we sell them a large amount of the weaponry they use today, and pretty much all of the aircraft in their Air Force are U.S.-made aircraft, meaning that if we don't approve something that the Israelis do, we could stop selling them weapons or replacement parts on into the future, which could cripple the Israeli military. So we actually have a lot of say on what the Israelis can do. And so far, the United States has been leveraging that a lot lately, telling the Israelis that they can't do certain actions against Hezbollah, they can't conduct too provocative of attacks against Iran. We have been leveraging that for a while now, and considering that leveraging force isn't really changing at the moment, I have a feeling that the Israelis are not going to be doing a lot to Iran, and they're probably going to be looking to the United States to do something, considering that we've kind of bound their hands behind their back as far as their reaction or actions can go towards Iran. So I would have to say probably not, at least in the current situation. They are still looking probably towards the United States to see what we will do and hope that we will end up doing something to the Iranians to knock out their nuclear weapons development program. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And I got to thank you so much once again for sponsoring that live chat to Mr. Anderson and helping this channel to keep on running. And I got to say, Joe Taylor, pretty interesting name. It's usually Enforcer for President, but Enforcer Matt for President, that's a new one. Probably a Cult of Matt member. But anyway,
Let's go!
Hey, let's go, baby! Let's get it, baby! But nevertheless, we are now moving on from that question segment and on into the rest of the news that we have tonight. Moving on into our location unknowns, we actually got to see some pretty interesting ones tonight. Starting off with some Ukrainian soldiers taking a little bit of a breather. And we're going to be muting that for copyright reasons, but we can see
yes, sir.
and look at them. They're just taking a little breather.
Man, we got some a hell of a delay tonight. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
Oh, I have. I have noticed that. I don't know what it is. We just take lag in waves. And we can see them.
Also, Kaltenberg, do not bring up any law school topics in here. It makes me want to throw up whenever I see the law school topics come up. It really does. I think I've got like PTSD from law school or something. Like anytime I see a law topic now, it's like, oh my God, get that away from me. Get it away.
Man, I'm telling you, it's tough. It's a tough thing, man. And we also got to see this guy feeding the squad and that dog because he's got that dog. Here's the clip. Dude, I love that music. I love it. I can never get enough of that deranged screaming. But we can see that that dog's being fed because they got that dog with them.
That dog's eating good. What is he eating exactly? What's in that can?
I don't know, dude. Hopefully not pig snout. It looks like some kind of spam. But this guy is happy to have fed the dog spam.
I was just about to say, the dog's eating better than the Russians at this point, whatever he's eating.
Dude, yeah, true, man. The Russians are trying to eat the snout of a pig. Meanwhile, this dog's eating spam or something like that. But moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see some pictures of a Leopard 1A5 in training somewhere within western Ukraine. This was very interesting. We have not really seen a lot of the Leopard 1A5 in service with Ukraine, but it's really neat to see one now. Also, what's interesting is that the turret doesn't really look to have the modifications that a normal Leopard 1A5 would have. It actually looks a little bit like a standard Leopard 1 turret, but with a Leopard 1A5 main gun, which is slightly different than the normal Leopard 1 main gun that was introduced at the very beginning of its production run. But moving on from that and into our next bit of news, we also got to see a Mad Max BTR made by the Russians, which was pretty bizarre. Here's the clip.
Вот сейчас внутри он там одну перемычку ставит и все. Так вот.
Man, they put those spikes in that.
Dude, they made it a hedgehog, man, literally.
I can just see it right now, like a Russian, like accidentally tripping and stumbling into that. Like it's going to happen.
Dude, you know that they're going to be so lazy they're not even going to try and pull the guy off. They're just going to drive around with him stuck on it.
The Ukrainians should hijack this and then put the Russians on them.
Dude, this thing is literally a pin cushion. Like, it's just a giant mega pin cushion for this BTR. And here's the BTR. It looks as though the turret's probably not operational because there's really no fire arc for the thing. So, pretty good design overall.
Man, the Russians are cooked.
Dude, they're winning the war with this one. They're getting out the hood with this one. Oh, it's a BTR 60. Okay, no wonder they don't really care about the gun. It's literally just a machine gun. But anyways, moving on from that, we're now going to be getting on from that little clip and on into our next one, which is actually the Russian casualty report, which is incredibly high. Damn! Wait a minute. Oh, no.
Wait, 0 Bobcats. Oh, no. Man, we haven't had a day of 0 Bobcats in like freaking months. Like, what the hell happened? 0? 0. Wait a minute, it's below 1,000 troops too. The losses today are actually kind of low.
They are a little low, but still, you know, like, that's relative. They are fairly high compared to the beginning of the war, but a little bit low for recent times. 980 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 19 APCs, 76 supply trucks, 5 main battle tanks, 55 artillery systems, 42 drones, 3 cruise missiles, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Overall, the losses were actually a little low today, like Matthew was pointing out, at least in some categories. But in others, they were still quite high, like the supply trucks and artillery category, it was significantly high. But in others, it was average or a little bit below average. But still, the Ukrainians are continuing to hold the line and try to push the Russians out. And we could see that very significantly within the Vovchansk front, as we got to see that the Ukrainians obliterated a Russian Uragan, which was left literally just burning in a forest near to the border. doesn't look like they'll be using that anytime soon. And we also got to see that apparently the people of Belgrade, the city, are getting concerned enough that they're starting to put cope cages on the buses. Although no attacks against the buses in Belgrade has ever happened. So that's just pretty much like psychoness kind of like playing out there, but still a little interesting to see.
Man, that's just for the benefit of the people. So that way when they ask, "Oh, Russia, why are we suffering so much? Why do we live in squalor?" They can say it's all thanks to the Ukrainians, bliat. That's why we're having to put the cages on the buses, bliat. Man, really, honestly, the cages are newer than the buses. I was saying it today in the short war video. Like, this bus is like from like the old ages or something. Like, what even is that?
I think it's like a 1990s Russian bus made like right at the end of the collapse of the Soviet Union. I think that's probably what it is because it looks old as hell. It's like 30 years old probably. But that's wild, man. Like, that's wild. They put like a 1-year-old cage or like a brand new cage on a 30-year-old bus. Like, the Ukrainians are going to end up attacking a bus. Like, why would they? It really doesn't make any sense. But with that, I hope that does address that somewhat well, because I really don't know where to go with the whole bus thing. But moving on from that little bit of news up in Vovchansk, it's now time for us to move even further south, where we got to see that near Novoselivske, it looks like we're still not reconnecting. Just in case if it isn't, really quickly, everyone, hang tight, and we're going to be right back. So give me just a second, everyone. And so hopefully we're back at this point. I am hoping that we are, because I just tried to disconnect and reconnect the internet. So hopefully that fixes things. If it is our end, I don't really think it is, but we'll find out. But moving on from that little D30, well, actually, we have to watch the rest of the clip while they play that music. But we can see them showing off the barrel, the actual barrel right here. You can see the muzzle brake on the front of it. And Matthew, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good. I think we're good. I think we're good. But moving on from that little clip right there, and on into our next one, near to Svatove, we also got to see a Baba Yaga Blit mining some logistics routes. And we can see a little Russian vehicle down there testing it out. And, oh, it doesn't look like it went well. That's that. Not that good. Not that great. Apparently, we have flatlined again. So this is not an us problem. This is a YouTube problem.
I don't know, man. I think it might be an us problem.
I'm doubting it. I'm doubting it. You always like to say that, and then say get a new computer or something. But it's not always my computer, Matthew. It's not always my computer. And we can see here the vehicle continuing to smolder and burn down there, and that's the end of the clip, but really neat to see. Moving on from that and a little bit further down the lines, we also got to see the Ukrainian T-64 operating on some Russian positions. And we're going to be muting that dubstep. And I got to say, I like the Italian-style camouflage that they put on this thing. Really neat. And we see them now firing. And someone said this could be an indirect side effect from CrowdStrike. It might be, because I don't know what YouTube servers work off of, and I'm guessing it's probably Microsoft.
I'm just saying, but why would you call your company CrowdStrike? I mean, that sounds bad. Like, if you really think about it, it's like, that sounds like something maybe a Mustang driver would do, a CrowdStrike.
No, better yet, Matthew, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like something someone would do that says, "We have to stand up for the American whacker." It sounds like that, dude. It's like CrowdStrike. It's like that sounds like a union. So, like, I don't know what that is. But moving on from that and into our next clip near Torske, we got to see a Ukrainian tank driving through a damaged town right here as well. Check it out. We see them driving through, of course, showing the damage in the town. And Toastub said, our T-60 tank barrels compatible with T-80. There is no such thing as a tank as the T-60. If you're talking about a T-64, I believe they actually are interchangeable. It's all just different tanks, but the main guns are the same, if I'm correct. But moving on from that and into the Kremenna Forest, we also got to see the Azov clearing some Russian trenches. Oh, and they had that beat going. That beat is sick. But you know what's even sicker? The Russians. Because they are getting it. I mean, dang.
They said, calm down, calm down.
Dude, this is some pretty freaking good footage right here. This looks like a movie nearly, but we see them continuing to clear out the area, and that's the end of the clip, but really interesting to see. Moving on from that, we also got to see a little firefight happening in the Kremenna Forest, and the Ukrainians, which are in the trench over here, fired an RPG directly at the Russians at point-blank range. It sadly missed, but it was pretty cool. And so we see the Russians and the Ukrainians here fighting. We see this guy fire an RPG pretty much right over their heads. It skims over a tree, but it does not blow up. Wait a minute. Oh. I think...
What the hell is that guy?
Oh, I don't even know who this guy is. I was paying attention to the actual clip. I was like, wait, did that hit someone? It literally missed him by inches. And I gotta say, that is a very interesting thing. Very close call. But moving on from that and out of the Kremenna Forest and a little bit further on down and into the area of Bakhmut, we also got to see that some Russian soldiers surrendered to the 93rd Kholodny Yar today. And we see the Ukrainian soldiers trying to accept the prisoner. We can see the Russian prisoner coming out here with his hands up and turning himself over to the Ukrainians, of course, to hang out the rest of the war in a prisoner of war camp. And with that, that's the end of that clip, but I gotta say, nice to see. Love to see it. Moving on out of Bakhmut and down on into Avdiivka, we also got to see that a turtle tank ended up being attacked and blown up today. And so here's the clip. And we're going to be muting that, but we can see the Ukrainian drone flying around, lining itself up to attack this turtle tank. Ooh! Damn!
Oh my god, the turtle tank just got blown up. Did you see that?
I'm telling you, man, that's some pretty...
Did you see that turtle tank get blown up? Did you see
that turtle tank get blown up? Or something like that. I'm not doing it tonight. Why in the world could I do it perfectly last time, man? I literally did it, and it was perfect.
It's a tank! It's just a tank! Leave it alone!
Listen! I can't do it. I can't. Screw it. Forget it. Forget it. I just can't do it tonight. But moving on from that, we did get to see even more Russians getting captured today. Here's one, and there's the other. Captured. It's a victory. But moving on from that.
Man, I got that devil face on that man right there.
Man, you are a devil when asked salary.
That's a good old proverb, you know.
Ancient Chinese proverb. And moving on from that, and a little bit further on down the lines of the Avdiivka area, we also got to see the Ukrainians firing a javelin at the Russians today. And this is a very rare sighting. We don't really get to see javelins much. But they did have one today.
Пошел!
And oh, we could see it right out there. There it was. A little hit. Very nice to see. Love to see it. And moving on from that clip and out of the Avdiivka area and a little bit further on down the line into Marinka, we also got to see a Russian assault group getting shelled as well. And you see the Russians trying to move it on along, but it looks like they're under some Ukrainian artillery fire.
Oh man, that's what you call getting hammered, getting pounded on their tiny post.
Vlad and his boys were up on their tiny post, and they were getting pounded. But moving on from that down to Novomikhailivka, we also get to see some Russian trenches getting hit down here as well by the airborne. All right, we're gonna mute that. I don't know what that was, but I don't think we want to unmute.
Oh damn.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, now I get it. I can't say it, but I get it. But it looks like he's scurrying on along. And he's trying to get into their outpost here. Here comes the drone. And it's dead onto the dugout. And here comes another. What do you mean, Jack? I was taking a shit, and the drone showed up.
Make sure you go to the bathroom when you need to, you know. Anyways.
Wait, no, better yet, man. my butt's not wiped. Like I had to run away. Like
my butt's been wiped. Whoa.
But anyways, it looks like those Russians ended up not having that great of a day. It was kind of a shitty day, pun intended. But moving on from that and into the area of Pustiska, we also got to see some Ukrainians riding an M1117. All right, we're going to be muting that. We've heard that song a million times. There they go, though. Look at them. Majestic. I really like the M1117. I think it's a really cool vehicle. Don't you like the M1117, Matthew?
It's pretty nice. I like the simplicity of this video, too. Someone has whipped out the camera and said, let's film it going around this corner real quick. And it turned into a classic.
Man, a hood classic, man. No doubt.
Certified.
Man, I'm telling you, man. Dude, label winning. And with that, that's the end of the clip. But cool to see a little M1117 riding around out there. Meanwhile, down the middle area of the Zaporizhzhia front, it looks like a Russian helicopter almost got hit. But psych, we ain't showing y'all that. Moving on from that and down to the area of Mala Tukmachka, we got to see some Russians getting blown up. But whoops, y'all aren't going to be seeing that either. Sorry. Moving on from that into Verbove, we got to see a Russian BMP blowing up. And this is one that y'all are allowed to see. Blessed be thee who watches thy video, for thou shalt see the most terrific of explosions. Check it.
It's scooting, but it's not shooting.
Oh!
Oh.
It's gone.
Did you see the shockwave off of that thing?
Man, that thing had a shock wave. That thing waved the shock.
Shock and awe.
Aw, man. I'm taking another night off. Aw, man.
Oh man, it's so hard being the hot dog man. Oh man, it takes full loads of concentration to, you know, simply sell those dogs. Oh,
I just wish they were here for me. Oh man,
they'll be wishing for a long, long time.
My free vacation is up. Aw, man, back to the grind. Aw, man. Moving on from that, and down into the area of Enerhodar, we got to hear that 5,000 Russian employees, 5,000 workers were evacuated from the Russian-occupied nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia, according to the minister. Around 5,000 workers were rescued from the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, Energy Minister Herman Halashenko said. Very interesting to see, and once again we can see a picture down here. Oh, whoopsies. We can see a picture down here of the empty Dnipro reservoir and the ZNPP off in the distance. He said it. He said PP. But moving on from that, now the area of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and on further down into the area of the left bank of the Dnipro River, we got to see that the Ukrainians were landing some cluster rounds on top of the Russians' heads. We're going to be muting that trap remix, but there's the cluster round, and it's clustered. It got them. Oh, damn. Secondary explosion right there. Pretty impressive. But moving on from that and a little bit further on down, we also got to see a vehicle cemetery that the Russians have set up in the area. Now, this is not a vehicle graveyard inside of Russia. This is actually a graveyard where the Russians collect up a lot of the destroyed vehicles that they can get to, and then they put them into central locations so that way they can try and send them off for scrap later back into Russia itself. And this is just a small picture of one of those graveyards. And we can see all of these. I'm not even kidding. All of these holes in the bottom part of this picture. every single one of them is a main battle tank that has been destroyed, and it appears that every single one of them had a turret toss, because none of them have an intact turret left.
Interesting.
That is pretty wild. I mean, there is at least 100 main battle tanks down here that have been completely destroyed in this one part of this one picture. It is shocking to see something like that. And it is once again showing that even in quieter areas of the front, like the left bank of the Dnipro, a heavy amount of armored vehicle losses are still occurring in this region. But moving on from that, and out of the area of the Kherson front, it is now time for us to move all the way up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day. You know what? We got to go to YouTube. Hang on, everyone. Hang on. I'm going to go to YouTube. And I'm going to go to the office of the president. And we're going to go to the president of Ukraine, and then we're going to go find him. And we're going to go.
I heard he had a perfect phone call today. A phone call that went so perfect, they put it down in the history of phone calls as the perfect phone call. I'm telling you.
Man, I'm telling you, man, I heard that there was apparently an amazing phone call that happened today. But we can't really talk on that too much. But still, without further ado, we actually have something kind of rare. We have Olena Zelensky. Never seen a speech on the president's website by Olena Zelensky. This is a first. So without further ado, here's the speech. This is actually really interesting. So
Speech.
let me throw up the subtitles, but I believe she's actually speaking in English the entire time on the video. But without further ado, here you all go.
Dear friends, partners, colleagues, I welcome you all to a special event where Ukraine is celebrating a new status. As a member of the School Meals Coalition, a global association of more than 100 countries. It is an honorable and responsible position, and I am proud that we were able to join this club of high standards at a time when we have to defend our country. And I am even more proud that it was our school nutrition reform that enabled our membership. The reform was born twice. The first time before the full-scale Russian attack, as a desire to create a truly healthy and useful menu for children. The second time it was reborn amidst the enemy's invasion, as our desire to defend the very life and education of children, to support them and their families, to give them strength to survive the war and to develop despite it. At the beginning of the reform, we mainly dealt with the infrastructure that had been destroyed over time and had not been renovated for 30-40 years. But after the Russian attacks, we faced the additional challenge of rebuilding what had been destroyed by the Russians. So this work was added to the agenda. Today, I'm proud of how far we have come. Amid daily air raid alerts and war alerts in general, we have managed to update standards and regulations, to modernize old kitchens and canteens. A completely new and unique kitchen factory has been built. Hundreds of cooks and administrators have improved their skills. High-quality, healthy food is now available in places where students have not had access to hot lunches for years, and every effort is being made to keep it free of charge, to take at least this burden of parents who are exhausted by their struggle for life. I'm grateful to the reform team for more than just their work, for their humanity and compassion, without which it is impossible to implement a truly socially important project, especially one aimed at children. Additionally, I would like to express my appreciation and gratitude to the international friends of our reform. Without your support, implementing it in the regions and in some communities would not have been possible. Today, communities are our top priority for reform implementation. Therefore, our task is to support them, both in modernizing equipment and in providing meals to primary schools and vulnerable groups. After all, it is too difficult to defend and develop at the same time. That is why we are grateful for every contribution, especially one to the health and well-being of the children. In fact, this is the ultimate goal of the entire School Meals Coalition, to raise a healthy generation with healthy eating habits established in their childhood. The goals of Ukraine and the coalition are fully aligned. From here on out, we go together. And in the meantime, I'm pleased to announce our next joint event. This fall, Ukraine will host the regional summit of the School Meals Coalition. Today, the results of an important piece of research, also jointly conducted with the coalition, the School Meals Case Study Ukraine, will be announced. It analyzes the organization of food service in educational institutions across Ukraine. This will help us understand even better what has been done and what needs to be done. Children did not choose to spend their only childhood in war. But it is within our power to protect that childhood, to make it healthier and more optimistic. I thank everyone involved in this endeavor.
And Heroam Slava.
Heroam Slava. And with that, that was the end of the speech from Olena Zelensky. Not President Volodymyr Zelensky, but the First Lady of Ukraine, Olena Zelensky. And that wraps up our news summary for the night. We are now going to be moving on into the second segment of this stream, where we get to talk to each and every single one of y'all. It's an incredibly fun segment, and we love to do this each and every night. And of course, tonight is a good night. There has been many people here who've been watching and enjoying this news, and not only that, we have had a load of questions come in, and a lot of people have actually been talking about something that still deals with the Middle East. A lot of people have been talking about, after 24 hours, Israel still has not explained how an Iranian drone, of course given to the Houthis, but still in large part made by Iran, ended up hitting Tel Aviv completely undetected. And a lot of people have been throwing in their thoughts on how in the world that happened. And a lot of people have been saying that Iran is using a new kind of stealth drone. Others, many people, are actually completely dumbfounded. They don't even know how in the world something like that could have happened. I would actually have to say, before we even get to answering what we believe, I would be one of those people. Some people are saying that maybe it was launched from inside of Israel, and others are saying that Israel actually allowed the drone to go through and end up striking inside the city of Tel Aviv. But a lot of people are having many different opinions, but it seems as though there is a major prevailing opinion amongst most of y'all. And Matthew, what are people saying about this drone attack, and what are you thinking about it as well?
So it looks like most people, about 36%, said unsure, while 28% said Iran is using a new stealth technique, and 19% said they believed it was launched from Israel itself, within the territory of Israel, and 17% said Israel allowed that drone through. Now, on this one, I will say I'm honestly a bit baffled and still dumbfounded how a UAV got through all of the layers of defenses that Israel has for air defense and radar. One theory I've seen going around that might be somewhat credible, or at least to me it sounds credible, is maybe Iran put a civilian transponder on a drone and sent it across, and maybe that's why I was able to sneak through. I don't think Iran has any cloaking technology or anything like that that would allow the drone that stealthily through the border, so I kind of doubt that a little bit, but it is a plausible theory that maybe they put a different transponder on it. I'll be honest with you, this kind of reeks of suspicion to me. I'm not going to jump into conspiracy theories or anything unsubstantiated by fact, but this is a little bit weird. So I'm going to say unsure. I'm with the 36%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say unsure as well. I'm with the 36%. I don't really know how it made it through or why. I mean, I could go into a deep rabbit hole analysis on what I don't understand, but it really would be pointless. I think it's just better to say I don't really understand how it happened. And so I would have to say that I'm a little unsure how that thing made it into Tel Aviv and hit a target, because there's a million different reasons why. But I hope that that does address that fairly well, at least in my opinion. And with that, it is time for us to move on into them questions. And what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so moving into our final Super Chat segment of the stream, we have our first Super Chat, and this one goes to Carl Pattison. He puts in a $20 donation and does not leave a comment. But thank you very much, Carl, for that support and helping to keep the channel running, and we greatly appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I gotta say, a huge thank you to Carl Pattison for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who help to make this channel possible. day in and day out. And I got to thank you massively again, Carl, for the support. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to keep on air. We wouldn't be able to have a voice out here in the Ukraine war world. And apparently we're becoming a very rare voice of just raw news and no politics. Of course, many people know that that's been a channel tradition for years, really since the beginning of this channel, that we do not delve into any kind of partisan politics at all. We just don't. And it's very interesting to see now that that's starting to become a very precious premium on news coverage, really in every category, especially in the Ukraine war category now, as many of the larger Ukraine war voices have now decided to move into political punditism for one side or the other, which is very interesting to see, to be quite honest with you all, because I generally thought people would know to avoid that kind of a thing and just keep people united on support for Ukraine, regardless of what people think on their domestic political affiliations. But it seems as though some people are just not happy enough with covering the news, and they now have to try and shove their own political opinions down other people's throats. It's wonderful to see that because a lot of people show their true colors, that they're not really true news reporters. They're more so just people, doing whatever the hell they want. But
Partisan hacks.
yeah, I would say partisan hacks. I was trying to say that in a more polite way, but yeah, partisan hacks is probably a better way to put it. But yeah, I would have to say.
You notice though that on the partisan hack style videos, when you try to politicize an issue that should be bipartisan, like Ukraine, it doesn't really get good viewership. I've been noticing that. Anytime the pro-Ukraine channels go really deep into politics, I'm seeing some like historically low viewership numbers, like tremendously low.
I have seen that as well, and I just don't think people understand it. But people just don't want to be told about about their reporters' political opinions. It just doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't make any sense. And the reason why I say this so much on air, y'all, is because I just want these people to listen. Like, why in the world do they feel like their opinions are important? It's like, do you know how many people put their opinions out there? Literally everyone. Why in the world would anyone care about yours? There's millions of them. I mean, really, there's endless amounts of opinions. Who cares? Just cover the news. It's what we're supposed to do. And people just don't get that. People don't get that folks like some level of neutrality in news coverage. People don't get that anymore. I don't know why, but I'm glad that the Lee Spring Army loves it and appreciates it, because that's all we do here on this channel, is be as politically neutral and politically unbiased as possible. We just cover the facts of video and picture evidence that we're able to get out of the war, and that's it. And I have
and also, we don't go deep into politics either, and we don't start off our stream by saying, "Welcome back, people. Partisan hack here. Top division."
Welcome back, defenders. Hack here. Top division. Oh man. Why?
Classic.
Why? I just have to ask, really though. Like, we make fun of it, we laugh at it, but why? Like, I really, it pains me, y'all, to see it.
Welcome back, defenders. Partisan hack here.
Dude, I could actually hear your tongue. Like, if because it's so close to the mic, I heard, welcome back, defenders.
Man, it's got that vibe to it, you know what I mean? It's got that little, like,
Listen, nothing can beat that damn mustache, dude. Like, nothing can beat that.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
He's trying to be in some more films.
Oh, no. Captain America, I'm a great fan of your films. You do not want to be a fan of that guy's films. But anyways, oh, man. Yeah, all I gotta say is make sure, folks, to just remind people out there. I feel like the Lee Spring Army should really go on a crusade on the internet of really telling people, we don't want to know your political opinions. We just want the news. Like, we want what you have to offer. Like with us, like, we just cover the news. And I hope that y'all go around and y'all start telling people that's what people want. That's what folks want. I hope y'all start spreading that kind of a mindset around, because I would like to see that even if this channel doesn't end up single-handedly accomplishing it, at least our impact and at least our precedent that we laid out and how we do this will start to impact the YouTube news reporting world as a whole, and maybe even the mainstream news reporting world as a whole as well. I would like to see that. So I hope that does address that fairly well, but still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running, Carl Patterson, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next super chat here. This one goes to John Garner, who throws in a $20 donation, and huge shout out to John for the support. He said, "To my LSA chat, thanks to all of you."
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And thank you so much, J Maggie, for enjoying what we do. We try really hard to make sure that this stream can run every single night, 6 days a week. Like, no joke, 6 days a week, pretty much every day, making sure to get this news out there to y'all. It is something that is a little tiresome at times. I will say that, but it is something that is a high honor to be tired for. I love doing this. I would never be anywhere else. We have done this for an incredibly long time. We've done this for 877 days now, pretty much without end. And I got to thank you so much for enjoying what we do and supporting it and helping it to be possible, because if it wasn't for folks like you, Jay, who really enjoyed what we did, we wouldn't be able to be here on air right now and continuing to get to cover it with all of y'all. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also moving on to our next one here, we have a $20 super chat from Jay Mackey, and he says, "Thank you for what you do."
Hey, oh, Matthew, you reread that. That was the same one. It's a duplicate.
No, Jack, you're getting mixed up. We just read John Garner's, not Jay's, Jack.
Whoa, what do you mean? I am not stepping down off of that position. What happened? I gotta tell you, that was the worst super chat reading in the history of super chat readings. I literally screwed up. I'm so sorry to John Garner. I moved on from you and straight to Jay. I'm sorry. But beyond that, thank you, John Garner and Jay Mackey, for enjoying everything that is done on this channel. I'll say live chat in the form of John Garner, and for Jay Mackey, it's for what we do. But we are happy to do it. The Lee Spring Army is happy to be here every single night. We are happy to be on air every single night. It's a very mutual cooperation that happens amongst the two, and we are massively appreciative of y'all support in helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, thank you to both of y'all once again. We try hard here. We do. Please forgive me. But still, thank you once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so moving on to our next one here, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd. And thank you very much, Panama, for that support. He said, $20. Take one from someone new or broke in the chat, please.
Oh, dang, that's putting it out there, Panama Floyd. Two cheers. But beyond that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Thank you so much, Panama, for helping this channel be possible. How I get to keep running. And we will make sure to take one from the live chat in honor of you, Panama Floyd. And so, Maddie, do we have anyone who has a live chat? Not of course, singling them out because we think they're broke or anything. Just a good live chat. Like, do we have one?
So the criteria is someone new or broke. So let's see. Oh, goodness. Let's see here. I see someone who's new, and this person is not broke. They're new, though. But they said it's just a normal scorpion. Very interesting name, a normal scorpion. I would be curious to see what a whack one looks like. But anyways, they said, do y'all have any news on Xi Jinping in the Himalayas?
I met Xi Jinping in the Himalayas. I think that whole thing was a rumor and a lie because we haven't gotten any backup on that yet, and it doesn't seem like anything's really changed in the Chinese government. So I think that Xi Jinping is fine. I think that was a massive rumor that went around, and that's why we reported it as a rumor, and we did not say that it was corroborated at this point. We just said it was a rumor, and I'm glad we did because it looks as though it was. But also, man, you know, one thing really interesting about Beijing is that Beijing was actually built in squares. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I did know that Xi did make a visit to Beijing one time. He sat down for a very serious conference and said, "What's up, Beijing?"
Dude, he really did. No lie. Like, that's
He
not
did
even a
that.
joke. It's like he actually did that. Also, Matthew, do you see this? The roadmap is off by a substantial bit.
Oh, man, I was looking, but I looked in the live chat and I saw something about the ghost of corn pop, and I was like, "What the hell is that?"
Oh no! Oh no!
Oh,
Get out of
no,
here!
go, whoa! But anyways, what were you showing me again? Let's see it.
I was showing you the road map in China. Look how far off it is. Like, here's the actual road they're mapping. It's all the way over here on the map. It's like that for everything.
That's weird. That must indicate that China doesn't allow them to map properly or something.
Apparently so, but I want to see the Beijing North Railway Station. What does this look like? Okay, there's not a lot of pictures of this railway station. What does this say? I don't know. I was going to tell y'all, but I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to try. But I wish we could actually look at the station a little bit better. Can we? Can we do it? Can we? Will we? I don't think we will. Oh shit, Jack!
What
It's
in the
all
world?
messed up. Bank of China. Bank of China.
Oh, Bank of China, they're in trouble. Look at that. Let's see here. What's up with this? Wait a minute. Turn the camera a little bit to the right.
What?
I am seeing that correctly. There is a bicycle wheel, but there's no bicycle with it. Turn to the left a little bit.
Yeah. Oh,
Look at that.
hello.
It's the ghost of Corn Pop riding a unicycle.
Damn. I never thought I would see that in Beijing. What's the sign say up here? Huh. Says something.
It says you're coming to a T-bone intersection.
Man, it says, you about to die. You about to be executed by the state. I want to know what that train station looks like, though. Beijing North Railway Station. We're going to go take a look at it, Matthew, because I'm wondering if there's any high-speed trains that service this station. I must know. Images. Dang, that's actually a little nice looking. Here's a picture.
Yeah, that is actually pretty nice. But I wonder how long it's going to last, though. Like, will it last for 5 or 10 years, maybe? Like, if they're lucky.
5 years minimum. Like,
Yeah,
five.
one of these days you'll see a piece of scaffolding coming down and like wiping out a whole line of people like queued up for the train. Like it's probably going to happen, man. These building materials don't hold up worth a crap.
But I mean that is actually a fairly nice looking station. Like no joke. But then again, like I'm saying it looks fairly nice. That's because I actually have a little bit of a low standard. Let me take y'all to the central train station in Marseille where one of the TGV's routes terminate. So let me go down here to Marseille St. Charles because this is where it is. And let me show you this because this is a French train station. This is what they look like. And that's actually, in my opinion, better.
Yeah, I think personally it is better. It's going to last longer. That's for certain. This might last maybe a century or something. The other one's not.
But I'll tell you this, man. Some of those TGVs, man, they look like they put them in a damn fryer. I don't know why they don't clean them, but geez, dude, like just put some water on them. Like,
it's a good sign though when you see a dirty train like this. It's been like it has some mileage put on it because you'll never see a dirty Chinese train because they're disposable. Like they go one route and then they get tossed and they get the new one.
Dude, Laughing Cow. Dude, that is stoned cow. Man, I struck again. Aw, man. Like, it's like, geez.
I'm not gonna lie, that's that face that Hot Dog Man makes when he thinks he can farm viewers, but he really actually loses all the subs.
No, that's that stupid face he puts on the thumbnail. I wish we could put that damn thing in Canva, dude, because imagine what I could do making a fake thumbnail with that stupid face right there. Now that would be gold. But let me show y'all a tour of the train stations. We now have to do it. Let me go to Britain, and let me show y'all one of my favorite train stations in the whole of the UK, which is London Paddington, which is just up here, right here. Y'all are starting to see the other side of me, the train side of me, and it is a thing. Like, I actually am very big into trains. But anyways, this is London Paddington, which I would have to say, in my personal opinion, I think it's one of the prettiest train stations in really the world, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's pretty nice. I think we walked through some of this, didn't we, at some point?
We actually did.
Yeah, I remember it. It was such a large train station. Like, you felt like you were standing outside, but you were really inside. It was interesting. And also, that bear was in there.
It was. You know what? They didn't paint the bear back then. You remember that, Matthew? The bear wasn't painted. It was just a bronze bear.
Yeah, they gave him color now.
Yeah, he's colorized now. Like it's like an old picture come to life. But let's see here. You know something though, I will tell y'all a little story and this is one that still sticks with me to this day about Paddington Station. Me and my mom rode the train, or my mom and me, that's proper English, but we rode the train from Bath all the way over here. Man, remember this, dude? This was when the train really shined, shine through in the UK, is when y'all had to drive from Bath to London and me and mama took the train. Remember that? We got there like a whole hour and a half before y'all.
Yeah, I remember that. There was terrible congestion on the M4, whatever it is, going into London, if that's the name of the road. It was absolutely awful. Backed up for like 10 or 20 miles or whatever they call it. It was terrible.
The train just glided in. Like it would, of course it will. But anyways, it dropped us off there and I got off at the station and me and my mom were laughing and joking around as we were getting off the train, you know, about what we were about to do. Like, what do we do? Like, do we get a taxi? Do we try and hop on a bus? Do we just walk the whole thing? Because we were trying to get to this hotel. So here's Paddington, by the way, just put that out there. There's the station where you get off. We decided to walk from Paddington through Hyde Park all the way to Buckingham Palace, down here to this little shop that's at, let's see, the Wellington Barracks. And then we were going to walk all the way from there, and then all the way around London to the Tower of London, pretty much, because there was a hotel, the Doubletree, right here by Hilton, London, that we were staying in. And that's where we were going. And we walked the entire thing. But when I got out of that train, me and my mom were laughing and joking, getting back to that part of the story. And, you know, we were just saying stuff. And so a cop comes up to me and gives me, and they were like handing these out to just everyone, but they handed it to me and it was about sexual assault. And I was like, don't you think this is like, don't you think that this is a little stupid just to hand this out to every dude walking by? Because, like, you know, for a
Plot
second,
twist, he was handing out just to certain people.
No,
Twist.
no.
No.
No. He was actually handing it out to everyone because they had 3 cops on every end of every platform, and they were just handing it out to every single dude like that walked through. They were, excuse me, sir, I tell you this. And it's like, why would you do that to everyone? It makes them all. It made me feel like a criminal just for joking and laughing with my mom walking out of the station. I was like, what the hell is this? It was rude as hell. I remember that. That was something that stuck with me about that station. I still thought it was pretty. I still liked the station. Did not like that one experience. But then me and my mom, we walked all the way from the station all the way through London. It was like a 5.5 mile, 6 mile walk or something all the way to the Tower of London. But we literally on that walk walked past everything that you would want to see in London. But beyond that, that was annoying. Also, by the way, just to point it out to y'all about how stupid it was to give me that flyer, at the time I got that, I think I was like 16 or 17, and I was clearly and I didn't have a goatee or anything, so I was clearly a young kid that they're giving a sexual assault pamphlet to. It's like, what the hell is this? Like, what is that?
Man,
that is stupid.
You should have slapped the papers out of his hand and yelled, "Police! No, police! Help, police!"
No, dude, you know what I should have said? I should have slapped that and said, "Get your hands off my witness!" Like, that's what I should have yelled.
You, sir, are you here to... blah, 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 blah.
And you, sir, are you here to receive my limp witness? How dare you, sir? But still, I hope that does address that fairly well. Still, Paddington is my favorite train station in the entirety of the world. Will die on that hill. Penn Central.
No, that is a bit goofy though. Like, why? Here's my thing: the person that's going to be committing that crime that you're talking about, do they really think that handing them a brochure, like a pamphlet or like a advertisement, is going to stop them from doing something like that? It's like, dude, if they're doing something like that to begin with, it's like that pamphlet's not going to stop them.
Dude, you know what's stupid? It's like if you never thought about it, like the pamphlet, like like you didn't see it, man. We threw it away or like right afterwards. But the pamphlet actually talked about how predators pretty much like approach women, you know, like and so it's like, well, if you weren't like a predator up till that point, this book is literally like a tutorial on how to be a predator. It's like someone just gets off the train, they're like, oh, I don't know what to do with my life. They get that pamphlet, oh, thanks for the idea, that's great, and then they just go wandering off into London. It's like no. It's like, we don't want that. It's like, no. Just don't hand out the pamphlets. You make everyone feel bad, or you're giving people ideas. So just don't do it.
Man, a hot dog, man. You hand that to hot dog, man. It's not like a warning. He's like, is this how it's done? It's like, whoa, Jack, hold on a minute. Hold up.
You hand it to him, you hear that Among Us. Ding, 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 ding. It's like, dude, get it away from him. It's like, that ain't going to be good. And that's why he shaved off that goatee, man. He got one of those while he was over there. He's like, now I have a plan. I have a plan. But anyways.
Oh, yes, Mr. Hot Dog Man. People don't like the films.
Man, I'm telling you. Wait, hang on. Try the Waterloo extension by Nicholas Grimshaw. So wait a minute, you're talking about Waterloo? You're talking about this station, Waterloo, Sax 2. Is that what you're talking about? We can drop down and take a look at it. Because I remember looking at the station for a while. Let me make sure that this is... I'm not a big fan of Waterloo, I'll be entirely honest. Like, it's okay, but it's not like Paddington. You know, Paddington is really nice. It was designed, I think, by Isambard Brunel, which says a lot. He was a pretty good civil engineer. But one thing I will say, though, is that Waterloo is the service station, I believe, as well as St. Pancras in the north near King's Cross for the Eurostar. The Eurostar actually has a station that terminates at Waterloo. So you can actually get on the Eurostar and cross the channel here at Waterloo. And you can also do it at St. Pancras. You know what? That's another one that I should show y'all. We're going on like a tour of train stations through London. But let me see. Here we go. And also, man, you're probably like, Pancras? Like, yeah, there's a train station literally called St. Pancras. Like, and then it's right next to King's Cross.
Is it really like pank or is it like pancreas?
It's Pancras, I think. Not pancreas. Like, it's not spelled pancreas, dude. But let's see here. Oh, ooh la la! But anyways, moving on.
Whoa, what the hell?
Whoa,
Damn,
Jack.
what's this statue representing?
Hell, I don't know, but it's something interesting, that's for sure. Damn, dude, did they have a picture of the platforms? This is not like a normal platform, by the way. I just want to put that out there. This is a special one, for special people.
I think we went to St. Pancras.
Pancras, Matthew, not pancreas. It's like, geez, it's Pancras, damn it.
St. Pancras.
Yes, Pancras, if you want to call it that. But we did not go to this one. I think. Let me think here. We drove past it. We didn't go in. Yeah, but we did drive past this thing. Because... Oh, wait a minute. You want to see an ugly station? Euston is an ugly one. Let me show you this one. That is what the station looks like. Like, the roof is literally, like, right above the trains. It's nothing nice. Let me see if I
That
can
didn't look that bad to me, really.
Oh, dude, look, it's a Pendolino. These trains actually tilt around the corners. Pretty cool.
Interesting. It's a Virgin.
Vision. And then they went out of business, and now it's LNER. Rip. Rip bozo. But anyways, did you know that, Matthew? Like, Virgin Rail is gone.
Yeah, I'm not really surprised, really. Also, fun fact, we took Virgin, the plane, to and
Virgin
from...
Atlantic.
Yeah, that's right, Virgin Atlantic, to and from Atlanta to Heathrow, I think it was. Very interesting flights. It was actually better than Delta, I gotta say.
Yeah, I would have to say it was slightly better. That's actually the moneymaker, I think. And so they didn't really want to keep the British rail holdings that they had, so they got rid of them. So it got replaced by another company called LNER, which is based off the London North Eastern Railway name, which is the heritage railroad that ran that route. But let me see if I can show you all. Here's the modern livery of LNER right over here on the Class 800. So that's the current trains that run pretty much the entire, I think it's the London to Edinburgh route.
Yeah, I prefer that old clunker on the right, that on the left that looks like it's could be shunting some freight.
Man, dude, the horn on that thing though, man, that thing is terrible, man. That thing goes. It's like, what the hell? It's like, dude, that thing sounds horrendous. It actually sounds like an animal that got stepped on and seized up and died. Like,
Can you do it again?
No, man, I'm not doing that again. Yeah, people are gonna be clipping that, man. But yeah, I mean, it's rough. It's rough. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And we're gonna move on. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. I just heard from Bingo Bruti that apparently the entire British rail network is being renationalized again for the second time ever, and I will be very interested to see how that goes. I'll be honest with you, from what I've seen, privatized rail and nationalized rail really haven't worked out that well in Britain either way, because by the end of nationalized rail, like, everyone hated it, and by the end of privatized rail, which it seems like it's coming around again, everyone hated it. So I don't really think there's a good route forward for British rail. some people are gonna be like, "What do you mean British Rail? You mean national?" No, I'm just talking about British railroading in general. I don't really think there's a good way forward, at least of the current options. They need to find something a little bit new, or maybe something in the middle. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that the best I can. That was a long rabbit hole on like absolutely nothing, but still, thank you once again for support, Panama Floyd, and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And also, real quick, folks, my apologies in the live chat, because for some reason, YouTube is having a glitch. Because I'm seeing some people, I've seen the third person say it now, that they sent something to me and tagged me and I did not respond. And I'm watching this live chat like a hawk. So I think YouTube might be having some glitches with the live chat as well, because I've missed, so far, 3 different people's messages. And then they'll try to send one again, and I still don't see it. So I don't know what's up with that. YouTube's having some data glitches here in the last week and a half or so, or 2 weeks. And, you know, I don't know if they're fixing it or not, but I wish they would get on that. But anyways, jumping into our next super chat here. This one goes to Chase Maddie, who puts in a $16 donation. And thank you very much, Chase Maddie, for that support. They said, World War II, what do you think about the Grant versus the Lee?
The Grant versus the Lee. That is such an obscure question, and I love it for that reason. Let me go get him. So let's see here. The M3 Lee. You know, I'm gonna have to say it. There's really not a difference in between the two. Yes, the Grant was made specifically for the British Lend-Lease, but it was a very minor modification that they made. And I'll try and show y'all. So this is the M3 Lee, named after General Robert E. Lee, actually. It was one of the first real medium tanks that America had. And the reason why it was a medium tank is because we put the 75mm gun on the side of the hull, I believe, of an M2 for the large part, and then we put a 37mm turret on the top of the medium tank. And so we went, hey, it's a medium tank now. It was really bizarre. Like, it was one of those, like, interwar period tanks that really doesn't seem orthodox, and it really is unorthodox. It's very experimental with its design ideas, but still, it wasn't that bad, at least at the very, very early part of the war. But moving on from that, there is another version of the tank, which is called the Grant. And the Grant was just slightly different. The turret was modified a little bit. I forgot what kind of a turret that actually is. This is a standard M3 Lee off here to the right. But this one had, I think, the same 75mm in the hull. It's just that the turret was a little different, and I think that the gun may have been slightly different as well, or it may have been exactly the same. Really, the only difference in between the two was the turret. And so I would have to say, generally, they're really the same vehicle, in my opinion. If I had to say I liked one over the other, personally, I actually like the Grant more than the Lee, because the Grant has, in my opinion, a cooler-looking turret. Let me see if I can find a better picture. Let's see. Oh, yeah, by the way, these were Lend-Leased M3 Lees to the Soviets. These are actually in the Red Army, the Sixth Guards Army, actually, when this picture was taken during the Battle of Kursk, outside the city of Kursk, which is really weird. But still, let me see if I can show y'all. Here's a British M3 Lee, but that's not a Lee. Well, that's not a Grant, that's a Lee. And I'm trying to find you all a Grant. Here we go. So, Matthew, what do you think? The Grant, pictured here, notice the turret, that's really the only thing that's different, versus an M3 Lee, pictured here. Which one do you think looks better, the Grant or the Lee?
I would say that first one that you showed me.
The Grant?
Yeah, the Grant.
I would have to say I think the Grant does look better. The turret just is nicer looking, in my opinion. But really beyond that...
Why does it look like it has why does it look like Pinocchio or something on the turret? It's like got the 2 eyes at the top, a mouth at the bottom, and long nose.
Dude. Dude. Yeah, of course you would point that out. Like, I never even realized that until now, and I'm like, he's got a point. Dude, it's it's like, dude, can you kill
my real boy now, Papa?
Do I look like a real boy?
Man, what is that, Meat Canyon or something like that?
Yeah, Meat Canyon.
That's such a creepy channel.
Man, it is creepy, but it does have its good moments. It's pretty funny sometimes. But with that, I hope that does address that well. Great question, by the way. But I hope that answers that the best I can, Chase Maddie. And still, thank you once again for support. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat is going to go to Honey. Stop tying up those kids. Goodness, who puts in a $15 donation. And thank you very much for that support. They said, love the content, Enforcers. I'm glad you like it.
Well, thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I gotta say, I thank you for enjoying the content. I just hope no one's tying up the kids. That's all. That's all I'm concerned about right now. But still, thank you so much once again for support and helping this channel to keep on running. It is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And thank you greatly for enjoying the content and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you who enjoyed it and wanted to support it and make it possible, we wouldn't be able to be here talking about this news right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And we've got one from Historic Tasmanian who puts in a $15 donation. And huge shout out to Historic the Tasmanian for that support. They said pizza money, although I've been sick with flu. I'll be feeling better, by the way. They said I was watching and liking an LSA Forever and more Attenborough voices, LOL, and take a live chat question.
And thank you so much for the support, Historic Tasmania. Thank you for enjoying the Attenborough voice. I don't really do it a lot anymore. I'll be honest with you, I don't really do a lot of voices anymore because it actually hurts my voice. And to make sure that I can do this for the endurance that we have to have, I have to kind of cut back on them a little bit nowadays.
But if you wanted a small taste of Attenborough, here he is in all of his glory.
But still, I thank you so much once again for enjoying this channel and supporting it and helping it to keep it running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to be here right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Historic Tasmania. And thank you for supporting the Pizza Fund. And I do hope that you get better from the flu, because the flu's rough. I mean, the flu will beat you up a little bit when you get it. So I hope it's not too rough, and I hope that you're getting through it A-okay. We'll also make sure to get that live chat question in honor of Historic Tasmanian. And so what do we got, Matthew?
And this live chat question goes to Barry Badranath. He says, speaking of javelins, did we run low on javelins, or are they less effective somehow?
I believe the Ukrainians started to run low on javelins, and then we don't really have a massive stockpile of older stores to give them. We kind of want to keep our current operational stores as long as we possibly can. So we're pretty much having to manufacture new stores, and then we'll end up giving them the oldest stores out of our current stores again in the future. So they're kind of running low on ammo for them. That's really why we don't see them getting used a lot. Because to be entirely honest, they are still as wildly effective now as they were at the beginning of the war, even with the cope cage put on top of some Russian tanks. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least from what I understand. And thank you so much once again, Historic Tasmanian, for sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running. And we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Barry Woodward, who puts in a $10 donation. And huge shout out to Barry Woodward for supporting the channel as always. And he said, give a shout out to BC's Jerry. He said, God scores again.
Hey, and we will make sure to give a shout out to BC's Jerry. And I would have to say thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, Barry Woodward, because it is folks like you who helped make this channel possible and help us to remind ourselves of the amazing old guards like BC Skyman who make up this channel and help us to keep this thing running. And I got to say a huge shout out to BC Skyman. I actually saw him in the live chat tonight, and I hope that things are going well for him considering some of the tougher times that him and his family are going through right now. But still, I hope that does address that well. Thank you so much once again. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in a 10. He says, this one is for the boys of the 35th, a.k.a. the Flying Serpents. IDF do drop big ones, and they need their own HGTV show called The Extremist Home Makeover. And LOL, and take one from the chat, boys. Take one from the chat.
Hey, we will take one from the chat, LSA Sergeant Figment. And I got to say, huge shout out to the 35th. LSA Sergeant Pigman is actually a veteran of the 35th, or the Flying Serpents. Really cool. And we also have that patch. I still have that patch. It's actually on my desk, along with the challenge coins as well. And I gotta say, we greatly appreciate those gifts, LSA Sergeant Pigman. I thought they were incredibly cool. And Matthew also has his armored challenge coin as well, and it's just wicked sick. And I gotta say, thank you so much once again. I would say that would be an interesting HGTV show. I don't really think it'd be in line with the rest of their shows, but it would actually get me watching HGTV for a change. We actually, funnily enough, if y'all didn't know this, we actually have had a run-in with HGTV before. Not in running this channel, but in life. And I will tell y'all why. Let me get to the Google map, and let me take y'all to where it all began. It all started when I was born. I'm just kidding. But moving on us over back to Alabama and down into the city of Wetumpka, which is actually where we're from. Like, we grew up in this town, this tiny little town of 9,000 people or so. We grew up here. We lived here. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just so freaking cool? Look at that. But anyways, beyond that, this town actually had an HGTV show up to it, and it was a show that did makeovers, like, you know, like home renovation stuff like that. It's kind of like everything that HGTV has, and we had high hopes when they showed up. Matthew, like, I remember we were like, man, the town's gonna look sick, and then they showed up, and I think they built one tiny park, and they renovated like 4 homes or 5 out of like the hundreds, and then they left, and that was it.
They didn't do much, but you would think that based on the show, they probably like built a town from the ground up from the bricks.
Yeah, I mean, it was really like the show was really misrepresenting what it felt like in the town, and I will show y'all because I think it's down here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So this is what they built. Like, this is the actual physical thing that everyone can show up to that they built. It's pretty much just this large shed sort of a thing. Like, that's it. That's all there was. Like, there was really nothing else. It was actually built, I believe, right behind where the old police department was before that thing got shredded by that tornado. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't really anything that big where I was like, wow, they really made the town better. It's like, wow, there's like no difference at all. We have this small shed structure here, and that's it. And we were like, well, that feels like it was kind of a waste. Because the other thing that they don't tell you is that when these shows show up, at least in our town of Wetumpka, they literally would shut off the entire damn town when they were filming, which was like every day. So you couldn't even go into downtown for like months because they were just down there doing something. You don't know what. Every time you went down there afterwards, it never looked like anything really changed. But I'd be damned, that town would be shut down pretty much every single day for like a week or 2 on end, then open up for 3 days, and then they close the whole downtown again for about another 2 weeks. It was truly like an absolute waste of time. Like, no kidding. And so I hope that does address that well, LSA Sergeant, because we actually have an experience with HGTV, and I just wasn't a big fan of what came out of it. It was kind of a waste. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And also, Matthew, there's a vape shop now in Wetumpka. I have never in my life.
They got vapes? They
have a vape shop here. Like, I have never in my life. Where in the hell? That is not the vape shop. Like, I'm doubting that. And the AT&T
man puts in that like sly like weenie dog meme, like doing the side eye, looking at that house like, I don't think that's the vape shop right there.
Man, they ain't selling vape shop in that shop. They selling crack.
Oh man.
Oh man, it's
hot dog man shows up knocking on the door talking about, is this the place?
That dude needs to be going. He'll be going, dude, I just need a couple of rocks. Like, I just need a couple. I just
Marmot opens the door. You're getting no rock.
You'll do what you're told. But let's see here. What else? Dude, I'm trying to see if anything else has changed. I mean, it doesn't really look like much has changed. At least from satellite view. What the hell is the Kelly Fitzpatrick Center for the Arts? What? Now, this is new. What the hell? So they built an art gallery in this place? Dude, this was not around when we were here. Yeah. Dude, it was built where the Knights of the Brotherhood were.
The Knights of the Brotherhood.
Yeah, or some crap like that. Remember that stupid group that had the Knights of Columbus or whatever? They were like in the stupid building.
Vaguely.
I forgot what their name was, but I always had an odd suspicion that building may not be up to good things. But, dude, wait a minute, the DMV is gone.
Huh.
What the hell? Dude, I'm actually shocked by that. The DMV and that other stupid group, or whatever the name was, they're gone.
I'm not gonna lie, they need to fix up like the front of the road and everything though, because the building's looking all right, but the little like surroundings not.
Man, and then they got the Coach's Corner, dude. I gotta say, man, the facelift they did to Coach's Corner, I don't really know if I like that too much, but you know, Matthew, that's a good point. Why in the world did they pave like all of this? Like, this actually looks good. And then they just went, to hell with it, and then just didn't pave that. Like, it's like, what were they thinking? And then over here in the parking lot for Coach's Corner, they didn't pave that either. Yeah, and then you see that stupid farmers market thing or whatever it is over there across the river. But yeah, that's interesting. Dude, they still have Creed Gym. Like they still have Creed Gym, dude. I'm sorry, y'all. We're kind of like going through the town because we're from here. We grew up here like pretty much our entire lives. And they still have a couple of the things that were here when we were here. Like the Creed Gym. I remember driving by that so many times. But man, it's actually not looking that bad down here. I mean, it's a pretty cute small town for small towns, you know.
Yeah, it's not looking too bad down here, man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, maybe we want to relocate. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Because we get shot and killed in Montgomery. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that fairly well with the HGTV thing, LSA Sergeant Figman. I thank you so much once again for the support and help with this channel to keep it running. I hope that helped y'all understand a little bit of our upbringing and lives from that little rabbit hole. But thank you once again for helping this channel to keep on running and making it possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. Oh, wait a minute. We got to take one from the chat. We actually have to take one from the chat in honor of LSA Sergeant Figman. So what do we got, Matthew?
So taking one from the chat this time, we have one from Nemesis, who says, how does the Iron Dome really work?
So the Iron Dome works a lot like any other air defense system, but it's on a much smaller scale, and it's more fine-tuned for smaller targets. So the Iron Dome has a limited range of a couple of miles out in every direction. They use a radar system it's a very, very fine-tuned radar system. Most radar systems are designed to be very powerful but pick up larger air targets like aircraft. The Iron Dome is actually made to be able to pick up targets as small as mortar rounds being fired. And so what they do is they pick up those targets on the radar. They then acquire a lock onto those targets with the targeting radar, and then they fire off the Iron Dome missiles. And the Iron Dome missiles, considering that the radar can track, I believe it's dozens of targets at a time, all of those missiles will then go and hit each and every single one of those targets, and sometimes the missiles will take their own independent or really creative looking paths to be able to reach their target. So that is the best way I can explain how the Iron Dome works. It's really like a Patriot. It's just on a lot smaller scale, and it's meant to hit a lot smaller targets. And so with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are about to be moving on to the next one, but I actually saw a live chat from DS, and he said, is Alabama that dangerous, enforcers? Some parts of it are. It's kind of like every part of the United States where there are nice places and dangerous places, and you kind of have to take them as you go. Montgomery is like a no-go. It is so bad that they're actually trying to get the federal government in there right now to start combating the crime because there's so many people getting murdered down there on a daily basis in Montgomery. Birmingham
almost got carjacked down there when we lived down there. Almost got carjacked in Montgomery. I was trying to get gas. Almost got shot at. Constant road rage all the time, swerving, people swerving at your car. Just crazy stuff, man. You couldn't even get out down there really because you were like an instant target. Like the moment you got out of the car and started walking around, there's literally one place there that you could get out, and it was actually safe, and that was about it. Everywhere else was really risky.
Yeah, it was pretty rough down there, and it's really rough now. Like we moved before it got really bad, but now people are saying it's horrendous. I mean, it's incredibly bad. So yeah, Montgomery is generally a dangerous place. Another dangerous place, well, it's semi-dangerous, is Selma. Selma isn't really that dangerous anymore, but for a while there, I think during the early 2010s, it was one of the most dangerous places in Alabama because there was just so much violent crime going on in Selma. Then we talk about Mobile isn't really that bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like the worst place in Alabama, so it's generally okay down there. And also, especially on the Gulf Coast, it's of course wonderful down there. So that's a nice place. It's like Dolphin Island, Fort Morgan, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach. Those places are pretty okay. Foley, actually this entire area of South Alabama right here, from Bay Minette down, that's actually a really nice place. Like, I can't complain about any part of that. I actually really like it, because I actually drove through there one time to get to Fort Morgan, and it was really nice the whole way from Bay Minette down. And then if you go to Birmingham, considering that we've lived here for a couple of years, we figured out that Birmingham is actually a splotch map of good places and bad places. Generally, everything west of downtown Birmingham is hell. Do not go. So places like Inslee, Fairfield, midfield, and especially Bessemer are no-go zones. They are just incredibly dangerous. The crime is rampant, and also there are some fairly crazy people there, like just from all walks of life. You will not believe me until you go there, and then you'll find out. Like, some people are going to be like, wait a minute, are you talking about like a specific group of people being bad in these areas? No, no, no. It's literally everyone. Like, Matthew and me tried to go to a gun store one time in Bessemer, and we heard some of the craziest stuff. I can't even go into what it is on air. We heard some of the craziest stuff being said in that gun store by customers and by the people working there. We never went back. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like that. But then in Birmingham, in downtown Birmingham, there are some places that are okay, and then there's other places that just aren't. 5 Points is like a no-go zone. Like, it's like 5 Points is pretty rough. The University of Alabama at Birmingham, that's pretty okay. The areas up to the actual train station in downtown Birmingham through this area, those aren't incredibly bad. It's actually getting really nice these days because they keep on building up new apartments down there. But the area north of the train tracks in Birmingham, that starts to get a little bit rough. And then the area north at Druid Hills, right past Topgolf, this turns into hell. Avoid North Birmingham. I would generally also avoid East Birmingham as well, because it is also known to be pretty dicey out there. Then Mountain Brook is literally the nicest place in Alabama. So you have like the worst places in Alabama over at Fairfield by the stats. And then you have Mountain Brook, which is the nicest, and they're only a couple of miles apart. Homewood's pretty okay. Vestavia's pretty all right. Hoover's not that bad either. And then Meadowbrook is Meadowbrook. It's fine. And so that's kind of like how Birmingham looks. And then Huntsville's actually getting kind of a bad rap these days because it's actually getting worse and worse up there, although it's rapidly growing. So it's kind of a hit and miss thing. It really just depends on what part of Alabama you're going through, because I'm sure everyone could give a breakdown like this of each and every state in America of places to go and not to go. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, DS. Very interesting question. And DS said we're getting the full breakdown. You are, and I hope you learned a little bit about the go and no-go zones of Alabama. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to Rob S., who puts in a $10 donation and says, take one from the live chat.
Hey! And thank you so much for the support, Rob S. And we will make sure to take one from the live chat. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so this one in the live chat is going to go to AF Kaplan. He said, with what is happening at the Rostov plant, has Russia made any threats regarding the Zaporizhia plant?
We have not heard of any threats being made at the Zaporizhia plant, and it looks like they're trying to hide and conceal what happened at Rostov if anything did happen. So I hope that does answer that question, and thank you once again for support, Rob S., and sponsoring that live chat and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible and a reality each and every single night. And so with that, thank you once again, and we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to Shady Haze Gaming, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much for the support as well. And it said, take a question from the chat and long live the LSA.
And we will make sure to take a question from the chat, Shady Haze Gaming, and of course, long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. And so with that, what do we got in the live chat, Matthew?
So this one is going to go to Plexus Gaming, who says, let's see here. They said, did you know that the feds think that the person that was doing the shooting, that assassination attempt, he had connections to Iran?
I did not hear that. I heard that they were saying that there was a possible assassination attempt being planned by Iran, but I don't think they ever said that that kid was attached to him. Because you have to understand that that kid had no social media presence at all, according to official statements, so there's no way for him to have been online, to have been radicalized by Iran, to be able to conduct that attempt. Especially considering that he lived in the middle of Butler, around Butler. I believe he was actually from Prospect or something, but it's pretty much Butler in western Pennsylvania. He really had no way to be radicalized by the Iranians. So I'm doubting that right now. As far as the story goes, they literally say that this kid was just a really bullied, troubled kid in school who apparently wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, pretty much death by cop, and he decided what a better way to have a death by cop than try and blast a presidential candidate and then get blasted. And then he failed at blasting a presidential candidate, and then he just got blasted. So he kind of got what he wished for, but, he didn't end up getting in the books for, taking out a presidential candidate. At least that's the story I've been hearing so far that's being put forward. But still, that story is kind of in the making at the moment because they're still trying to find out more details. And as more details come out, the story changes a little bit. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And also, let's see here. I see Governor Ivey said, what linked him to Iran? Like the enforcer said, I'm not really thinking that he was really linked to Iran. So, no, I don't think that was a thing. But there are allegedly some plots out there by some Iranian people to go and carry out something else. So, not really sure. The stories are kind of murky, but the kid, that bastard, was not connected to Iran, according to what we know. That bastard. I wish they would stop saying his name too. It's like, forget the bastard and leave him alone. It's like,
Dude, they say his name. They say his name with the same kind of reverence as John Wilkes Booth. It's like this was some goofy kid who didn't even succeed at this attempt. It's like his name should be completely forgotten. A lot like that crazy guy who shot Teddy Roosevelt. Like no one knows his name. Like no one. And they shouldn't. Like he didn't change the course of history at all. Well, maybe.
And also all this yap about the kid was bullied or something like that. It's like it's a shame if the kid was bullied or something like that. Like I get that, but it's like that's not any justification or any excuse. Like just because you get bullied doesn't mean you go out and pull off an assassination attempt on somebody. That's two different things. And I don't know why people keep saying like him getting bullied has something to do with it. It's like how the hell does that link up?
I would say though, like the whole bullying thing. Kids have been bullied in the past. Like those specific kids. I can't even really say too much about this, so y'all just gonna have to kind of read in between the lines. Like those kids from Columbine that got bullied a good bit. And then they end up conducting some heinous action. I don't know how people ever make that mental jump in their heads though, where they go, okay, I'm being bullied. And now I'm gonna go commit some atrocity. It's like, where in the hell does the mental gymnastics happen to come up with that conclusion? It's crazy to me. I don't even know how people get to that point.
And also it's like the kid allegedly gets bullied. So instead of wanting to go back and get the bully, like do this to the bully, he goes and gets the president of the United States. It's like what? It's like no, I don't buy that for. Or whatever. It's like he tries to go after that guy. It's like why? It's like that makes no sense.
I don't even know. Like they'll probably find out more. I think today they said something like he had VPNs and some sort of offshore accounts or something. I don't really know. We'll be finding out more as it goes. But really, for me, I'll tell y'all, I'm not really going to be finding out much because the stupid kid tried, he failed, he got shot and killed. They found out he was kind of like mentally off or something along those lines. And for me, that's really all I cared about. I was like, okay, kid was a nut job. It's like we kind of already got that because he tried it in the first place. Kid was a true nut. And so I'm like, I don't really care to know all the details. Like if I ever find it out in the future, that'll be kind of neat. But I'm not really going to be seeking out like all of this information and details on this little punk because he's dead and he's not really posing a threat to anyone at this point, so why really care all too much? It's just kind of a fact of curiosity at this point really than a necessity to know, at least for me. But with that, I hope that does address that well, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat goes to DS, who puts in a $20 donation, and huge shout out to DS for always supporting the channel as well, and for being a channel legend, bar none. And they said, always entertaining. I love the channel and the community.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, DS, and thank you for saying it's always entertaining. Even with us, well, even with me taking you on a little adventure through Alabama on where you'd want to go and where you wouldn't want to go. I thank you for enjoying that because we don't ever get live reactions from an audience, which is so weird when you think about it, man. There's so many other people who do stuff like on TV. They always have like a live audience to react, to let them know that the jokes are landing or to make it seem like jokes are landing when they really aren't. And we have none of that. Like we literally just monologue and crack jokes in dead silence, which is really good when you think about it because we could get up, man, and we could kill it in front of an empty room like we could.
If we had a live audience based on some of the things I've seen in the live chat with the bot coming in occasionally, you'd hear, oh yeah, I like it. Great show, Enforcers. Oh yeah, it's great. shut the hell up, bastards. It's like, whoa, who said that? Who said that out there looking around for them? It's like, no, man, I don't know. That if you have to like get rid of the bots or include the bots, that'd be a big deal with the live audience. I say just like put in the canned laughter.
Man, no, man, I'm telling you what, I would have to start whipping that. Get him out of here, get him out of here. Like, I'd have to start whipping out that. But me personally, I think that's really crazy when I think about it, man. We actually just do this in empty rooms. Like, there's no audience, there's no taped laughter, there's nothing. Like, we just run this show, and then we have to pray. Like, what's crazy about that is that we have to pray that we're funny. Like, we don't know if the jokes are landing or not. Like, we just throw out jokes and we laugh at our own jokes and we pray that y'all like them. And I'm glad that y'all do. I'm glad that you do, DS. And I thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible, and we wouldn't be able to wonder whether the jokes are landing or not. But still, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and the next one goes to Linda D. Saliniers, who puts in a $7 donation and does not leave a comment. But huge shout out to you, Linda, for supporting the channel as well, and we greatly appreciate it very much. And we also have a 5 from CK Bold, who says take a live chat question and orders the regular. Thank you very much, CK Bold, and also Linda as well for that support, and we shall grab a live chat question. And this one is going to go to Bilges, who says, what will the West do if Russia can't control the issue with the nuclear power plant?
Really nothing. We really can't do anything because it's within their sovereign territory. So we really just have to hope that they'll do something or that they're competent, which is really scary. But that really is what it ends up boiling down to at the end of the day, just like it did with the Chernobyl disaster back in 1986. There wasn't really anything we could do. We just had to pray that the Russians, or really the Soviets, would figure it out and fix the problem. And so with that, I hope that does address that live chat well. And thank you so much for the support, CQ Bold, and sponsoring that live chat question. And thank you, Linda DeSoliniers, for your support as well. While you didn't throw in a comment, the support does mean a lot. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Burbo, who puts in a 5 and says, tomorrow is my B-day. And also, happy early birthday to you. They said, what does the chat say about a Russian singular brain cell bingo would happen? And what could possibly go wrong now?
Singular brain cell bingo? Do you know what that means, Matthew? Do you know what that means?
Singular brain cell bingo. I don't know. I never heard this term before.
Oh goodness, I don't know. You're confusing me, Baba. So thank you for the support. Sadly, I would say bad things would happen, I would assume, but I don't know. But still, a happy birthday to you. Early happy birthday to you, Burbo. I hope you have an amazing one tomorrow. It's always great to have a birthday, and I hope you go out and get to celebrate it and have a lot of fun. But still, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Darren Quinn, who puts in a $5 donation and says, I'm in your Patreon, and sorry can't afford more at the moment.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support, Darren. And don't worry, any support is wonderful support to us. We thank anyone for any amount that they can give, because some people can only give $1, some people can give $5, other people can give $500. It kind of just depends on person to person. We're just greatly appreciative and thankful people enjoy the channel enough that they'd want to support it all, whether they want to support it a lot or a little, or whether they only can support it a lot or a little. We're still greatly appreciative of each and every person who does, because while it's not mandatory, it is something that we have to be able to keep this channel running, and we are greatly appreciative to folks like you who help to make this channel's operations a reality. You help us to be able to exist, not only through the Patreon, but also here on the live stream. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well, Darren, and thank you so much for enjoying this channel and supporting it and helping it to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $4 super chat, and this one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment. He said, LSA, hit the like button. That's an order. Jugga jugga.
Hey, hit that like button, baby! And that is an order. We're going to be hitting that order, LSA Sergeant Figment. Now, I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who help to make this thing possible. And so with that, we are now about to be moving on into the live chats, but we actually just got another one from Midnight! Hey! Take it away, man.
So Ben I he puts in a $20 donation and a huge shout out to you, Ben, for that support. He says, "Does a your mama joke cross the line? LOL, and love my LSA. Keep rocking."
Ben, not really. Dang, now the super chats are coming in. But beyond that, they don't really cross the line too much. Some people don't really like them that much. Some people really find them funny. To me, I'm really fine with any joke anyone wants to throw out, and if it's too spicy, we censor it. But we laugh at it, of course, but we'll censor it so that way it's not read out, and then we'll pick a live chat or something like that. So I hope that does answer that question well, Ben, and thank you so much once again for loving the LSA and wanting us to keep this thing rocking, because folks like you, Ben, who support this channel and help us to keep this thing running, y'all help us to be able to keep this LSA rocking and keep it running. And so with that, thank you so much once again, Ben. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next super chat goes to Wellness LSA Latvia, who puts in a €20 donation. And a huge shout out to Wellness for that support once again. He says, "Marmot's got the ladies, the flies got the food. Together to the vibe, always in the mood. From dawn to dusk, they own the night. Marmot's the flash, flies the bite."
Wilderness, I would have to say that's actually a pretty good poem, but I have absolute disdain for the fly. Like I have, oh man, destroy them. But beyond that, I thank you so much for the support, Wilderness LSA Lobby. That was not bad, actually. That was not bad. But still, the fly. I don't like the fly, but still, thank you so much once again for the support, and thank you for helping this channel to keep it running. Thank you for being our Latvian hoof trimmer of the Leaf Spring Army, an incredibly cool and interesting profession. And with that, we are now moving on from that last super chat. Thank you so much once again, by the way, Wilderness LSA Latvia. And we're now moving on into our live chat questions. We have, I think, like 6 of them. 7, actually. We have 7 live chats, and I'm intent on answering all of them. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so the first one here goes to AF Kaplan. But first of all, before we get to that one, we have the Morse code decoders of the stream. And tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Paul Schultz, Kevin J., Rumpelstiltskin, and David Millsaps. They said the Morse code decipher says the Rostov nuclear power plant may be at major trouble, and why does Russia still control the ZNPP, LLT, LSA?
And that is the sound of money, and y'all got that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. And I got to congratulate y'all for getting that Morse code message correct on the 877th day of the war. That is absolutely amazing. It is absolutely impressive. And I got to give y'all a huge credit for that, because y'all have been doing that day in and day out. And so with that, we are now on to that first actual live chat question.
And this one goes to AF Kaplan, who says, if their Rostov nuclear plant does melt down, could the prevailing winds bring any contamination to Ukraine?
At the moment, no. Actually, the prevailing winds are sending all the contamination straight to Moscow. So if it does turn into a meltdown, Moscow is actually going to be the one in the firing line, not Ukraine. So a little bit of poetic irony right there. But with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, at least in my knowledge that I have from the current moment. And with that, I also saw, Matthew, that Sax2 said there was a thing called an AR-7, and I don't think I've heard. Oh, I have heard of this thing. It's just that I don't remember as the AR-7. It's the survival rifle, Matthew. It's that thing.
Oh, I've actually never heard or seen that, but that's pretty neat.
Well, what's cool about it, Matthew? What's cool about it? What's cool about it is that the entire thing fits in the stock. Let me see if I can find it. Here we are. Here we are. And so, come on. Okay, so here it is. There's the AR-7. And that's the whole thing fit into the stock. So you can open up the stock, pull all the parts out, connect them together, and you have a small survival rifle. Pretty cool, actually. And it's one that I just haven't really thought about a lot, but that is actually cool to hear about the AR-7, just to have a quick mention of it in the chat. But still, with that, I hope that does address that well. Very interesting, by the way. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Adam McLean. He says, does Iran have any submarines that could transport tactical nukes to other parts of the world?
No, I don't think so. Let's go check the Iranian Navy and double check that. Iranian Navy ships. List of the ships of the Islamic Republic of Iran Navy. That flag is hideous. Okay, so Their only submarines are Kilo class, Fateh class, and Gadir class. This is the Gadir. This is not carrying a nuclear missile. This is a narco sub. This is a narc
That's
sub.
pathetic.
Dude, this thing is literally a midget sub, no joke. And then they got the Fateh class, which isn't really that much bigger. And then they have the Kilo class, which is probably the largest one they have, but still not missile capable. So the answer, wait a minute, hang on. The Nahang class. We don't have a picture of this thing. It is small, 82 feet long. It is a midget submarine, and there's only one of them. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be having any missile capability on the future. But North Korea, interestingly enough, actually has a capability to do such a thing. Let me go show you all this. This is the flag of the Korean People's Navy. It's very
Whoa,
ugly.
Jack.
Microsoft Paint. They just smacked some stuff together and prayed. Let's see. Where is their nuclear missile carrying submarine? Oh, where is it? Where is it? I think this is it, actually. Yes, this is it. Sadly, we don't have a lot of pictures of the thing, but it's green, I think. Let me go see if I can type in Simpo class submarine. Let me see if I can get a picture of this thing. Here we go. It's not green. It was actually painted black, but the actual submarine it was built off of is green. Let me see if I can show you all a picture. So this is the original sub as seen here in its beautiful green. It's sea green color, that piss green that tells you that you need to go to the doctor. And then they modified that submarine and they turned it into this. You can see that the North Koreans actually blurred out the actual missile carrier in this picture, but here they didn't. And this is what they modified that submarine into. It is so bad. It is so ugly, but it actually is nuclear missile capable. It's not Iranian, though, but it is one of the few countries that isn't supposed to have a nuclear weapon. It's actually the only country that isn't supposed to have a nuclear weapon that has a submarine that can carry nuclear weapons. And so with that, I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Mike C. He says, is it too far-fetched to think that if the Rostov nuclear power plant really has a problem, that the Ruskies will blame Ukraine and use it to their advantage by getting the Zaporizhia NPP in their crosshairs?
You would think that they would, but the thing about that is that the Crocus City Hall attack, which happened a while ago, they didn't really blame that on Ukraine a lot, and when they did, they really didn't do a lot about it. And that was a very big event. I mean, I think 97 people were killed in that incident. So that was probably one of the most shocking incidences of an attack inside of Russia since the Beslan attacks, I think it was called. But beyond that, I would have to say I don't really think they would do much if that happened. They might blame it on Ukraine, but there wouldn't really be a lot of follow-through on that, at least in my opinion, because they've never really showed follow-through on anything that they blamed on Ukraine inside of Russia so far. But with that, I hope that does address that well, at least in my opinion. You know, take it for what it is. Take it with a grain of salt. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And this one is going to go to David Long, who says, if the nuclear plant turned out to be a second Chernobyl, how do you guys think that would affect the war overall in this what-if scenario?
If it did end up creating a Chernobyl situation, the fallout area would actually be going... Sorry, I actually slipped in my chair right there. Whoopsies, I was trying to move, and the chair, like, slipped in my shin to hit my desk. So that's what you were hearing right there.
Sound like an earthquake over there.
Dude, the whole desk was shaking because my legs slammed into the desk at full speed right there. But anyways... Moving on from that, the fallout would actually go from Volganons probably all the way up to Voronezh. So a lot of the supply lines, at least conventional ones, would be completely cut off by the radiation. Now, they could have people still run the railroads and stuff through that area. It's just that you wouldn't really be able to do that often or a lot. So I would say it probably would cut off a lot of the Russians from supplies, or if they got any supplies, it may end up being irradiated by the time it made it to the actual front lines inside of Ukraine, which could end up posing some pretty serious issues for the Russians in the long run. So I would say it actually would be a pretty positive thing for Ukraine if that did melt down. But, you know, we don't really want to melt down even if it did benefit Ukraine, because meltdowns are, of course, nasty business. even if they are, if you want to call them beneficial. I don't think there really is such a thing as a beneficial meltdown. But with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, and we are on to the second to last question of the night.
And this one goes to Fayuma, who says, we got a saying in Germany. Something is 8/15 if something's very common. And can you take a look at the saying's origin of the 815?
And let me see. So the MG0815. Let me go. Yes. The MG0815. So, let me go find it. Yes. Here we go. The Maschinen Gewehr 0815. That is a Maschinen Gewehr, and Gewehr is Maschinen. And dude, that little pistol grip is so sad. Like that is such a sad looking pistol grip, dude.
Oh, Pee-wee.
Dude, it's the dong. Like they attach the dong to the thing. Dude,
that's messed up.
Dude, Hot Dog Man was like, oh man, I'd grab onto that machine. And it's like, oh man, a little romp through the woods. But beyond that, I actually do not know about that saying. But if they say it's as common as an 0815, it's very interesting to hear Germans talking about a machine gun. But I would say maybe it is, but I would not carry this machine gun around. Me personally, like, I don't really like the MG0815 and how it looks. Now, it was an attempt to actually create a little bit more of a portable machine gun, but even still, I don't know. Oh, yeah, here's the MG0818. Still got the dongle down there at the bottom. But they did replace the water-cooled barrel, the water-cooled jacket with an air-cooled jacket, which I think was a little bit of an improvement. And let's see here. I gotta read the live chat. Brendan Triplets, that looks sketchy. That's what I was thinking. But still, man, what are you laughing at?
I'm just laughing at this gun that's sitting here on the screen. Like, get it away.
Get it away. And here's an aircraft mounted MG08, just in case y'all are wondering what that looked like. Here's another MG08 that was used on fighter aircraft, air cooled.
Calling a drone strike.
These hoes must be from Iraq, the way they bagged that ass up. But beyond oh man, dude, we're losing it at this point. We're losing it, but still, I hope that does address that at least the best I can. The machine gun is fairly interesting, and I will try and look into that statement a little bit more and try and learn more about it, because that's a very interesting German-esque statement. And thank you for sharing that with us. And with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who was the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night?
And that viewer is Surabachi, who says, if Siberia was able to declare independence from Russia, taking the region's natural resources with them, would Russia feel threatened enough to use nuclear weapons or collapse?
If Siberia tried to break away, they would conduct armed intervention first to stop that from happening, and they probably would succeed because most of the population centers are pretty much along the Trans-Siberian Railway in the southern part of the country, so it'd be pretty easy to keep control, and that's really why Siberia will never break away, is because the Russian government is able to keep great control because of the Trans-Siberian Railway within that area. But if they did break away, they would try and conduct armed intervention first. If they continue to try and break away, the Russians will say that it's threatening their territorial sovereignty, and then they would start nuking them. So yes, they would end up nuking them because their nuclear doctrine does say that they can take action against a enemy state actor, or one like this, like a breakaway Siberia, if they started to threaten the security of the state, its territorial integrity, or created an existential crisis for the state, which that would meet all three criteria, so they'd probably start nuking them. And so with that, I hope that does address that the best I can, at least in my opinion. And with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream. I've got to say that it was an absolutely amazing night, with almost 50,000 people having watched in just really under 3 hours. That's pretty impressive.
Whoa.
And peak viewership, according to YouTube right now, of 5.3. But I'm sure they'll update that tomorrow, and that'll be up to like 7 or 7.5 or something really aggravating. But beyond that, I got to thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon if you'd like. I don't say that often here on the live stream. For some reason, I'm saying that because I'm getting brainwashed to say that because of the short war videos. But still, thank you all so much once again for watching. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the war in Ukraine. And so with that, Good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die.
And with that, also huge shout out to Bruce Lee, by the way. He just threw in a $5 donation and put in good game with that hippo sitting there clapping them nubs together. Because I don't see any hands, and those hands aren't PG. They're not rated for everyone. But anyways, thank you all for watching tonight, and thank you all for another great stream. And of course, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava. We'll see you all tomorrow. Get some rest, and good night.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.